Ladies and gentlemen, the program will begin in 5 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, the program will begin in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board. Good afternoon. I see everybody has boarded. I think we can take off our panel on the general aviation. First of all, let me thank you all for being here with us. It's going to be really a pleasure to discuss the general aviation trends, developments, aspirations and dreams, not only in the Middle East, but also from other areas and geographies of the world. This afternoon, we will, together with a very esteemed panel of friends and colleagues and leaders in this industry, discuss some of the most important areas and trends that are shaping general aviation in Saudi Arabia, the Middle East and globally. As you know, the industry has been growing tremendously in the post-COVID time. We have seen an important growth in the business jet segment, especially. The Kingdom has followed importantly and started developing the industry and will be a leader in the following years. That, of course, has been supported and facilitated by the many important giga projects that are running at the moment in Saudi Arabia. I'm speaking about NEOM, Alula, the Red Sea projects and many others, pilgrimage initiatives of course, and the overall business growth that we have experienced in the last years across the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. That is a very important initial milestone and achievement. Now, in order to open a new cycle of growth and development, we really need the support and the orchestrated collaboration from all the players and stakeholders within the industry. I speak about the infrastructure component, ground and maintenance services, safety, economic regulations, innovation and sustainability as well. The orchestration of all these elements into a sustainable formula will definitely generate the next cycle of growth. In today's panel that I have the pleasure and the honor to moderate, we will pinpoint growth levels of the KSA general aviation market. We'll discuss about trends, what is needed, what needs to be delivered over the next years. We will bring forward the lessons learned from within the sector in Saudi Arabia, but also from other geographies and markets, as we have esteemed panelists with us joining this afternoon this discussion. We will also discuss about what are the prerequisites, infrastructure, service for the healthy growth of the sector across Saudi Arabia, but in general the Middle East. So thank you so much. I'm very pleased. Let me right now turn the camera and the light towards my panelists. All of them are great friends, so I'm very pleased to welcome them. I suggest you all introduce yourself, starting from Imtiaz and then going down the floor to Kevin. Imtiaz, to you.
Thank you, everyone. This is Imtiaz Nambari. I'm the General Manager for General Aviation at GACA. This is a new sector within GACA that are focused purely on the general aviation sector, which means the whole promotion of the general aviation in terms of the infrastructure, services, and all the other things which goes around it. This is also to attract the market. We do believe there is international players that needs to be here to bring the right services that are expected from the elite sector of the general aviation. Thank you.
Arnaud. Hello, Arnaud Martinez, the CEO of the helicopter company, came and joined Saudi Arabia 11 years ago on a fixed-wing works. And I've been fortunate to start that journey with the helicopter company 5 years ago. And since that time, enjoying being part of the portfolio of PIF, leading the helicopter side of it, and really happy to share this panel and this event at that forum, and being next to our key enabler, our friend Imtiaz here in GACA, and just being part of, proud to lead this new helicopter commercial operator since 5 years, and happy to be part of the panel to answer any question regarding general aviation. Joseph.
Thank you. Before I start, I'm very happy to see such a large group here. If any of you'd like to have a seat up front, there's plenty of seats for everyone. I'm Yusuf. We're part of Flynas as an airline. The company that I work with is NASJet. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing. And we're a private organization, 100% privately owned. Very proud of that. Been with the company for about 20 years, since 2004. And the company's been around for a quarter of a century. And basically we focus on aircraft management and charter. So we're enabling the industry in general aviation, if you will, by contributing to the local economy and by helping grow and provide a service that very few provide in this part of the world. And we supplement our aircraft management with charter. So it's quite interesting combination, and I look forward to this discussion.
Thank you, Joseph. Kevin, welcome to Saudi Arabia, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kevin Yun from China. I'm the chairman of Dearjet International. Dearjet is the biggest business jet company in the Asia-Pacific area, which established from the year 1995. We operate the biggest fleet in that region, including BVG, ACG, and Gulfstream, Bombardier. We also have the honor to operate the first Dreamliner VVIP airplane. So now we expand the business outside globally, especially in the Southeast Asia. This company is also a subsidiary company under the HNA Group. HNA Group is the fourth biggest aviation group in China, has their fleet altogether around 700 plus. Thank you.
Thank you. So we close the introduction with John. Mike, to you.
Excellent. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is John Hewitt. I'm the Regional Vice President for Universal Weather and Aviation. I work out of the London office, which is our regional headquarters. And we've actually celebrated our 65th year of being in business this year, being a Houston, Texas headquartered organisation. And our main services are trip support services. We are very proud to be the largest trip support company in the world. We have a very large network of FBO and general aviation handling facilities for the business aviation market. We typically don't work within the commercial environment. We try to focus what we're good at, which is the business and general aviation market. And I'm very, very excited to be invited here by Future Aviation Forum and our friends at GACA to provide our insights. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So as you can see, we have really very esteemed group of panelists and friends, which I thank all of them personally to be sitting here with me. One last, let's say, message before we enter into a set of questions that will shed light on the sector. We have prepared a QR code for all of you to be able to ask questions that we will pose to our panelists at the end of the session. So please connect with our online Q&A section if you are happy to submit some questions at the end of the session. Okay, so Imtiaz, for you, what are the steps that GACA has taken to support the market development of GA in the latest years? Please let us have your point of view, your comments, and your experience as well in leading this sector. Thank you.
I think we need to go a little back and what we heard this morning from His Excellency about the aviation strategy in general, which is around the meeting the 330 million passengers by 2030, and looking to what we have done today from last year of increasing of 26% in the passenger and the 16% of increasing the flights. That already tells you the aviation market is growing. There is a demand, and we need to, as a Saudi market here, we need to fulfill and make sure that we have the right infrastructure and enablers to make sure that we can go more and more, and we have to meet the target. Looking back from this, we have looked into the roadmap of the GA. We believe there is a high potential. What also His Excellency has mentioned today in terms of the space of the area of the kingdom, 2.15 million square kilometers, knowing the high ultra net worth individuals are increasing. In the last 5 years, we have seen from, if you look just to the statistics, between 2015 and 2020, we see the increase of 3.5%, 3.5 as a factor. Looking also at tourism, we believe there is an increase in the tourism happening, and it will be another 2.5, a factor of 2.5. Looking to all those, we believe that we need to have a roadmap, and we worked on the roadmap for the general aviation between today and 2030, and what are the targets that we need to meet. Those are the steps that we have taken. Also, we have looked into the economic regulations, and we believe we have looked at the economic regulations, we have looked at the infrastructure area side, and we also looked into the services and suppliers. Looking into the economic regulation today, the empty leg has already been removed. Maybe probably it's been announced end of last year, and maybe most of you are aware of this. The FPO and MRO today are not required any local partners. If an international player today wants to come and act and work in the MRO or FPO, you don't need to have a local partner. It's purely your choice if you want to have a local partner, but it's not a mandate from the GACA side. And much more is happening, so I'll keep it here, and then probably I'll speak more as we go. Thank you.
Thank you, Imtiaz. I'm sure we will have the time later on to deep dive on some of these topics. Youssef, one question for you. General aviation demand and supply and trends over the last 3 years. What is your view, what you have seen, your comments, what you want to share with our audience?
Well, thank you, first of all. I hope the audience in the back can hear me well. The voice is good, thank you. So just to add to what Imtiaz is saying, from the private sector, we, NestJet, are on the private sector side. We are a local Saudi privately owned operator. We've been doing business, as I said, for 25 years in Saudi Arabia, purely privately owned, no government shares whatsoever. And I think building on the trends that we've seen and adding to what Imtiaz said is that we're seeing a new number of ultra high net worth individuals show up and come into the kingdom. I guess they were there before, but they're now making more money. Many of them are interested in charter. Many of them are interested in aircraft management. Many of them are interested in purchasing aircraft. So we've seen a new trend over the past 3 years where people who used to own very large business jets, such as a BBJ or an Airbus 319 or 320 or so on, ACJ, that they're starting to move towards smaller aircraft. So if we look at NestJet over the past 2 years or 3 years, we've actually added quite a few smaller business jets that are privately owned. Many of those owners, they actually add their aircraft onto a commercial AOC, if you will. And when they do that, they are contributing to the community because there's a number of aircraft required for the amount of charter that we need to, comply with here in our part of the world. And the way we do business at NASJet is we manage aircraft. So we manage everything from a 747 all the way down to a Pilatus PC-24 and everything in between. Every single manufacturer, business jet manufacturer, we have it pretty much on our AOC or on our op specs. And we're seeing more and more newcomers to the industry, ultra high net worth individuals wanting to purchase new aircraft and business jets and bringing it under management. So there's definitely a niche in the market, if you will, for a good level of contribution to the GDP, something that GACA teased us earlier last week or the week before, where they said they want to turn our industry, our general aviation industry in Saudi Arabia, into a $2 billion contribution to the GDP, and that is massive. If we just look at maybe the part that NASJet does, we're just a small piece of the equation. There's a lot more to be done. There's many opportunities for investors, as Imtiaz mentioned, to come into the kingdom and invest, open FBOs, open MROs in the kingdom, and I see many friends in the audience and colleagues who are nodding their head and saying yes. So, general aviation has a huge potential. I really think and believe that there's room for everyone out there. There's not enough operators in the region today. The perfect example is with the helicopter company, with Arnaud and his team. They're doing a wonderful job by introducing a sector that wasn't there before and contributing to the GDP by offering commercial services, not only serving the government sector, but commercial services as well. That's something we haven't had in the past. So it's a very proud time. It's a good time to be in general aviation. I'm looking forward really to this discussion and looking forward to the questions from the audience later on. And I'm sure our panelists here will have many contributions to add as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joseph. Very enlightening and clear. Arnaud, I remember when you started, there was not even an office, actually. And I had the pleasure to collaborate with this great leader in the very beginning. So, talking about the Rotary business, what happened in Saudi Arabia that has enabled and supported your great action, and where you stand today, what are your initial thoughts? Please.
So first of all, thank you for your lovely comments. I believe it's all about timing as well. We started, as you said, 5 years ago when we met, designing the strategy of the company, then moving into the execution phase, COVID happened. So 3 years ago when post-COVID we started again, we did a vertical takeoff and we never stopped climbing since we took off. And it's all about the country. It's all about, and I'm used to say it's a unique country, it's a unique vision, and what we are trying to do at our humble level is to provide the air mobility support with the helicopters to this vision. So we started 3 years ago with a scope that 3 years later is way wider. Beginning was to serve the Giga project that we are used to call Giga project, but for us they are more than Giga project, they are our key partner, and designing the path for this new technology, new way to operate. So we call them our partners, Red Sea Global, NEOM. So from that limited scope, which was already quite interesting and exciting, we move into a way broader scope. Because of the kingdom vision. So we did all sports, entertainment missions. We develop and start with some fantastic place such as Alula, to develop the touristic segment as well. And since 3 years we are growing at the pace that the kingdom needs. And I'm used to say that we don't buy helicopters just because we love buying helicopters. We buy helicopters because the Saudi vision needs these fantastic platforms. So since 3 years we try to adjust our strategy and to match that country strategy, GACA strategy, and our key partner strategy by buying the right platform for the right mission. And when I say buying the right platform, the relation that we have established with the OEM as well, you never grow on your own. So we have established a relation with the OEM as a key partnership. We try to, since 3 years, push the OEM to invest locally, which is a key focus on THE at the board level and at the portfolio level with PIF. We always try to have the big picture in mind, always try to grow, but to grow without compromising on safety. And I'm seeing that with my authority next to me. And we try to grow by also planning. We are here in the future forum. So we need to plan the future. So future start by having the right foundation. We think we have now with 49 aircraft and plus or minus 60 at the end of the year. But there is a way more exciting 5 years to come where we need to plan the new way to operate. We need to plan the sustainability. We need to plan the urban air mobility and then move into the advanced air mobility. So it's just the beginning. Again, the 5 years coming, we will not be able to do it on our own. We will surround ourselves with what we are used to call the ecosystem. And we will make sure that Saudi Arabia is a platform for everyone, not only the local market, but bringing everyone from outside to the local market. So we want to have our rotary training center that we will develop. We want to have this ecosystem in terms of rotary MRO capability. We want to bring the OEM on engines to invest in the kingdom to have shops availability. And all this ecosystem will allow us to grow, even to at some stage go and see what is beyond the KSA border. Right. This is who we are since 5 years. We try to do it as safe and as the best way we can, and hopefully we are not too bad so far.
I don't think you are too bad. Actually, the opposite. And I really believe Arnaud explained how the whole sector came together to generate a tremendous successful story and a dream come true. It all really started 5 years ago on a presentation of a business plan and a business idea. And nobody could really expect such an impressive and amazing growth. So congratulations. It's not, I'm not the one that has to do it, but definitely impressive.
But if you allow me, there is 800 employees in the back. It's not a one-man show, and there is a lot, I would say a lot to say about our shareholder, PIF. Who is just making sure that the dream can come true, as you said.
Absolutely, and I am also 100% sure that, as you have just mentioned at the end of your answer, you have plans for beyond the borders that we can discuss later on. John, again, welcome to be sitting with us. Just some comments about the business jet market that has been growing significantly, as I was mentioning in the beginning, in the post-COVID years, especially here in the Middle East. We really experienced a shift in the market. So how do you see it? What do you think this has been, let's say, bringing in terms of the customer perspective, the service perspective, and all what has been the driving forces behind? Mike, to you. Thank
Sure.
you.
No, well, thank you very much. I mean, the Middle East and the EMEA region saw an amazing bounce back after COVID. And I think that was driven by high net worths wanting to use aircraft for tourism purposes or business purposes. And also we saw a new sector of the market where people that had traditionally flown in the commercial sector had experienced the private jet market and wanted to make use of that after those commercial routes opened up again. In terms of traffic numbers at the moment, we're starting to see in 2024 slight cooling in the market. versus 2023. But I will say that traffic numbers are up 13% when you compare it to 2019, which is the year we used before post-COVID. You know, business jet deliveries are still quite buoyant to the market. Just picking up on Yusuf's point, we are seeing long-range aircraft and ultra-long-range aircraft being the majority of the deliveries to the market. But it is exciting to see other smaller aircraft joining fleets and aircraft management fleets to be able to move around the region as they see. So when we look at themes, and we're looking at themes for the future and how we want to develop our business, we have to look at it from two different areas. We look at it from an operator and the crew perspective, being in the FBO market, and we also look at the passenger and principal and the end user experience. And the two are both equally important, but they have different needs and different considerations. So if we have a look at themes that operators are concerned about, it's more about efficiency savings. Those efficiency savings at the moment seem to be driven by technology advancements. How can they utilize their aircraft more efficiently? And they're utilizing that, they're doing that through technology at the moment. You know, to give you an example, one of the things that Universal actually brought to the market 2 years ago was an online platform called Feasibility IQ. And that is a online mission management pre-planning tool. So if you think about anything that an operator is going to consider they need to consider for their mission. So that's airport information, ground handling information, passenger visa information, health requirements, anything from a planning point of view. We've actually packaged that all into a product that customers can enter into online very, very quickly and give them those results so they can actually work out if the mission they're planning is feasible at that planning stage. And that's created great efficiencies within those operations teams, within those operators. When we look at themes for the passenger experience, I mean, passengers are always looking for that high level of service, that high attention to detail. And then we're looking at what we're seeing from a passenger point of view is the journey experience from car to plane, on the aircraft and out the other end. And what we're typically seeing is customers want to move as fast as they can. So we're trying to holistically look at the whole experience instead of just focusing on potentially lounge facilities, terminal facilities, FBO facilities that the customers will utilize. We're trying to figure out how we can efficiently get that customer from his car and ultimately to his car at the other end destination. And that's really looking at the whole holistic journey for that passenger. When we're looking at recent announcements that have been coming out, such as recent giga projects, the Vision 2030, all of those themes are puzzle pieces, and it's trying to put all those puzzle pieces together. And at the moment, we're seeing tremendous growth in Saudi Arabia, in the kingdom specifically, and we're really excited to be able to provide our experience, our influence, and kind of ultimately be part of that journey and the ultimate legacy that Saudi Arabia is trying to produce at the moment. So thank you.
Thank you so much, John. Very enlightening. Before we go back to Arnaud and Youssef, Kevin, welcome to Saudi Arabia. You have landed in a fantastic country. If we look at China, the experience of China, the experience of Saudi, they're very similar in terms of ambitions, in terms of enablers that made the ambition go live. So what is your view? How do you see the sector in your area has developed? What are the key elements? And what kind of lessons learned we could actually absorb and replicate in Saudi to grow the sector? Thank you.
Okay. I'm really glad to have this chance to share my observation and understanding of the general aviation industry development in China. I think in China, we have a long history of development in this area, but until the takeoff of Chinese economy, the general aviation in China was reached a new altitude. I mean, this is the nature demands from the economy that requires the general aviation to development. In China now, we split the general aviation into two sides. One is the traditional general aviation, including the private jet, helicopters, fixed-wing propellered aircraft, light sport aircraft. Another side, we call it new general aviation, which including the drones, flying cars, UAM, and a lot of this, especially for the new general aviation in China. In recent couple of years, it's had dizzying development. Also, I think reached the level of the world leading edge. So I have some data I want to share first. Now, by the end of last year, in the traditional general aviation side, we have more than 4,000 aircrafts. And the flight hours last year is 1.4 million. And we have more than 500 companies, I mean operators in the general aviation side. And for the new general aviation, we have 1.2 million registered drones, all kinds of drones. And also they flight 23 million hours last year. And also there's 19,000 operators. So from this data, we can say the increase obviously every year by double-digit percent. And also the country benefit a lot in the economy from this. In many cases, you can say that the traditional general aviation, the business, are greatly replaced by the new general aviation. I mean the pilot sometimes was replaced by the drones in great extent. But we still believe, because the flying is the dream of human from thousands of years ago, the traditional generation will still live there, but they have good connection. And also in China, we have very good development in the infrastructure constructions. By the end of last year, we have more than 400 general aviation airports in different provinces, different part of the China. You know, China is a very big country, so different situation needs different solutions for the air transportation. So there's a very, the vigorous construction development in different regions. And also, China has their complete industrial sectors cover all the aspects. So which country now we can build our own not only the commercial aircraft like C919, but also the general aircraft like the amphibious airplane AG600, which is big enough to do the firefighting and other usage. And also we have the helicopter manufacturer like AC313, 323 series. And also now it's even better in the new general aviation side. All kinds of drones and other advanced unmanned aircraft can be manufactured in China. This owns to the economy completion of the China industry. It in turn contributes to the country's GDP increase greatly. From the government view, the general aviation has a huge volume in the GDP, which will be 1 trillion RMB, which is a huge number. So in China, the government has a lot of stimulate measures to expedite the development. To conclusion, I think in China we have top-down hierarchy to give their strategy of how to develop their general aviation. It's not only by some single department. For example, we have the industrial and informalization department. They will issue all of these things and followed by the local government province. So anyway, I think the kingdom can refer a lot of the aspects from China to push forward the general aviation development in the country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I really enjoyed and I also believe there will be a lot of synergies, especially on the new frontier, on the advanced air mobility, where Saudi is developing very fast. And Arnaud, going back to you, what aviation services are crucial in your point of view to the development of the GA sector in Saudi and also to your business?
So the first one that will always be a core, our core and a clear focus for us, we try to impact the life of the people, right? So, and the best way to impact the life, I should say, it's to save life. So we started 2 years ago on the medical services, and we will still focus on that growth. I don't want to put that in the category of business because it would be inappropriate. But that's typically our key segment. It's developing medical services, searching people, saving people. That will remain our close focus, and it's a reward by itself at the end of the year when you count the number of lives that you have directly impacted by saving life, or the family around, and the friends around. So in terms of, that's for these key segments. In terms of business, I think the kingdom and our role as THE is to support the touristic segment as well. And there's more and more events, more and more cities that tourist people will go and visit. So we want to make sure that we are part of that journey. Another massive business segment for us, we were talking about the new mindset of people, investors, VIPs coming in the kingdom to invest. We are not here anymore to provide a fantastic FBO with gold and beautiful. We are in the REITs here, it's beautiful, but I think the golden point is time. So we want to make sure that any VVIP coming, hopefully in a general aviation airport soon, with his own jet, will have the capacity to take a helicopter, go fly to CAFT, make the meeting, go back to the general aviation airport and go. And that's what we hope to be impacting as well, to just play our role in order to facilitate that. Then unique country means sky is the limit. I saw things in the past 3 years that I didn't expect. So I don't know what to expect for the 3 years or 5 years coming. But what we try to do is to remain agile, get ready, gear up, as we are used to say, but also be on the cow floor. It means that we talk about urban air mobility, advanced air mobility, that has to be planned properly. But I think it's a journey. You cannot stand up and run, you need to walk. So we will start to focus this year on how to launch these urban air mobility segments and how to plan with our key partners to plan the advanced air mobility. So there is many eVTOL OEMs in the audience. There is high demands to move in that direction. I still believe that's the place to be for that. That's for any investors, any OEM. That's the kingdom is the place to be. That's the only place that you can put around the table the regulator, the clients, the operator, the infrastructure, the airspace, and make all these people working together in one direction, which we call a vision. And I don't know so many countries with a vision that they apply and execute. So here we will try to focus on our core, making sure we operate and provide a platform to operate safely, either a helicopter, conventional helicopter, or later on eVTOL platform, but still focusing on doing it right, safely, at the reasonable price, and with the support of the entire ecosystem, infrastructure, regulator, and key clients or partners, as I mentioned, Red Sea Global, NEOM, all these, they are highly demanding partners, and they are leading the path in this new green initiative, and we as THE will follow the path.
Amazing. Actually, for me, it's a complete different experience. I work with all of them on a daily basis, and I have followed all the growth and the developments they have achieved in the last 5 years. But it's really so much satisfying to see the action and what they generate for Saudi Arabia. They save life, the advanced sectors, they enable infrastructure development, they enable tourism. So this is a very, in my point of view, a very serious conversation, a very orchestrated action, and so again, congratulations, because it's really very relevant and also serious, because as you can understand and feel from their words, they are planning already the next cycle of growth, like on the advanced air mobility, on the urban air mobility, and many other things that will make Saudi, in 5 years' time, hopefully I can sit here and interview them again and find a complete different sector. But I know we are under constraint of time, so John, back to you. Given your extensive background and experience in fixed-based operations around the world, I mean, what are, in your point of view, game changer for growing your business in different geographies and in your action, please?
Sure. So for those that don't know, Universal Weather and Aviation, we're 65 years old now, and a part of our organization is Universal Aviation, which operates 75 ground handling facilities worldwide in 26 countries over numerous continents. And each one of those, we try to provide a consistent level of service to each one of our customers. But as you can imagine, each location has its own complexities and its own challenges. Now, I wish I could sit there and say there is a secret sauce around walking into a new location and being able to deliver an FBO or a ground handling facility. But unfortunately, due to local constraints, regulators, local laws, for example, there is no real secret sauce. So what we try to do is we try to work with regulators, authorities, airport owners about what their general aviation needs and requirements are. Now, a lot of airports that want to support general aviation don't necessarily understand or understand what they want to deliver to GA. So what we try to do is we try to provide a consultative approach with the airport to figure out what do they need versus what their wish list is, so we can factor in and deliver a service that meets today's market requirements and the future requirements as well. So I'll give you an example of San Jose in Costa Rica. So the San Jose airport was looking to enhance its general aviation services at the airport, and they were looking at FBO opportunities and what type of solution they wanted. And in actual fact, when we was going through that consultation with them, we actually suggested a general aviation terminal experience versus FBO. Now, for those that don't know the difference between an FBO and a GAT, very quickly, an FBO is typically a single building with a single operator and managing all of that infrastructure themselves from that single location. Whereas a GAT is a shared space. A general aviation is as a shared space for numerous companies to be able to deliver ground handling facilities. Now, they can create their own unique approach to that through lounge services and everything else, but they share the infrastructure such as security, customs and immigration, and get some efficiencies that way. So when we spoke to the airport authority, they were actually pleased to look at that suggestion, and I'm proud to say that we actually build and manage the GAT in San Jose, and it's actually been very successful. We actually are a handler ourselves, so in that sense we're a landlord and a tenant, but we have competitors on the ground that are providing ground handling services to customers, so it creates competition, it creates efficiencies and makes better use of the space that is available. In terms of looking at developing locations, you've got to put it into two buckets. You've either got the developed locations and developed airports and developing airports. And really, developed airports are quite saturated in terms of competition and opportunity to growth. So really looking at those opportunities is more about acquisitions and partnering up with companies that are there at the moment. When you're looking at the developing locations, what I'm really excited about with Saudi Arabia is that there is a very well-established business and general aviation market here already. You've got some very well-known based operators here, and you've got foreign investment and foreign companies wanting to come and do business in the kingdom. So there is a demand for traffic to come in to Saudi Arabia. So when I look at those trends, when I look at the opportunities around FBOs, I think Saudi Arabia's got some great opportunities around the Vision 2030, GACA's support as well. I'm gonna steal something from Imtiaz that he actually said to me and said to us a couple of days ago. In actual fact, which I found really refreshing. He's gonna hate me if I say this, but he said that His Excellency views GACA as a facilitator, not a regulator. And for us, dealing with many authorities all over the world, it was so refreshing to hear that, because when you look at working with regulators, working with airport authorities and owners, and working with our customers and the competition, that is a fantastic recipe to be able to deliver a great service and enhance the growth and potential here in the kingdom. So we're really excited to be part of that journey.
Thank you, John. I have seen some drones flying over us, but we need infrastructure, Imtiaz. So what can you comment on that point? Where are you going?
Thank you. I think infrastructure, there are two major elements here. First is the Giga projects that we see is going on around the kingdom in different areas and mostly on the tourism areas. Second is building the general aviation terminals or the FBOs in the different airports. On the airports, we believe as a roadmap we have is 9 terminals and the existing airports, and those are the Riyadh, Jeddah, Dammam. We have Abha, Jizan, Al-Taif, we have Al-Medina, Red Sea, and is the Neom, I think. And the 6 new GA airports that we are working on is Riyadh. We will have another GA dedicated airport. We will have one in Jeddah. In addition to the King Abdulaziz airport, there will be additional airport. In Jubail, we will have an airport. And also we will have one in Mecca, which is literally strange for somebody when I was speaking to him this morning. How come you can have something in Mecca? So it's not inside Mecca, it's very close to Mecca. We are looking also in terms of the infrastructure also for Mecca is the space location where we can have the routes for the planes coming in and out. We also going to have one in Neom and one in Al-Amala. Those are the 6 new GA airports that we would like to see coming up very soon. Those are in terms of the business corridors and the religious corridors, which is Mecca and Medina will be, and also in terms of the tourism corridor, where we see most of the ones on the left side, on the west coast, are more based on that. We also believe that those are the very good potential points for all the GA traffic that's coming from the African side as the stopper. This is in terms of the airports. We also believe that the airports is not enough. We still have a lot of airports today. We have the Jeddah and Riyadh. We have those two airports. But we also need to have the hangarage, parking hangarage, and the MRO services, which are very important. Today we see the leakage from the Saudi market is based on the lack of the hangarage here. People are parking their aircraft, especially in the summer when we go to the 55 degrees here, peak summer. The owners are parking their aircraft outside. With the target that we have in the 2030 vision, we have, and the roadmap that we're looking for by 2030 is to have most of those owners, more than 90% of the owners to be parking here, and they will be the owner of the aircraft to be in Saudi. This is how we see it.
Thank you, Imtiaz. Before I go back to Kevin, I want to, let's say, speak and talk a little bit with Joseph. Joseph, KSA Vision 2030 and the GACA General Aviation 2030 roadmap. Very ambitious plans, very important. So what needs to happen right now more and how can we really accelerate the development of the whole sector?
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. I hope the audience is not falling asleep. So I promised myself I'd make a connection with the audience just to keep this session a memorable session, because I really take general aviation to heart, and it's a very interesting industry to be in. So the more smiles I see in the audience, the more I know we're connected to each other. And hopefully, we'll give you something that's not too much past time, because I see Francesco keep winking at me here. So I'm going to do my best to make it short and concise. Vision 2030, one thing I can say about that to take home, and for everybody to take home, we all know where the country's going. This is a country, a beautiful country, that we know the direction the country's headed in. We know where we're going. We know that there's a purpose, that we rely less on oil income, and we diversify our income through other industries. So this is why GACA, and I'm very thankful for everyone that's here and Imtiaz for mentioning this, is that we have to focus on the infrastructure and supporting the infrastructure and making the process easier for everyone to do business in Saudi Arabia. I think being at NASJET for 20 years and the company being here for 25 years, this is a quarter of a century. There's a lot to learn and a lot to take away. And the best thing that we gather is GACA's here to listen. They're doing a great job by improving the rules and regulations to make it easier to do business for everyone here in Saudi Arabia. We know that will continue. They're listening to our feedback. They're listening to the way operators are showing some concerns, and they're trying to make an improvement. So I think the future looks bright. I won't speak very much longer so we can allow opportunities for questions. Yes. But the future looks bright ahead. The next 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 10 years, there's plenty of opportunity out there, plenty of growth. So we're going to make it happen, all of us together.
So that's amazing. This gentleman will keep us busy over the next years. Kevin, what has been the role of the Civil Aviation Administration of China in supporting the growth of the sector?
Yes, the authority really play a very important role in the business. First, they reorganized all the regulations based on the past best practices and to accommodate the development needs of their industry. And second, for example, they balanced the safety requirements for operation and the development. So that means they will take the measures to reduce the cost of the operation and still remain there certain safety standards. And third, for example, they make the process, the approval process, simpler. For example, in several years ago, it maybe need 12 months to finish setup of AOC to a general aviation company. But now they do the work parallelly, so it only needs maybe 6 months to finish it. So it's now very easy to establish a company, GA company in China, and they can easily put into operation. Furthermore, they are very active to welcome the challenge of new technology. For example, in recent years, they developed a lot of new regulations. For example, how to set up drone operation area in a commercial airport, and how to manage the radio system of the drone, and also a lot of such new regulations are set up in the past years to meet the requirement of the new operation of the unmanned aircraft. I think all these things are carried out by the authority and really push forward and promote the industry with fast development. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. And Imtiaz, in 1 minute, because I see that we have some questions from the audience that I would like to go through as well. Leveraging on what Kevin and Joseph have contributed, what should investors, stakeholders expect in terms of support from GACA and yourself, of course, and your team and everybody? Please.
So as John said, we have a very clear kind of to support you as a facilitator rather than just a regulator. So we are, our doors are open. You are most welcome to come ask us a question. We will try to help you. We'll try to give you the guidelines. Obviously, as a regulator, we cannot prefer any specific company, but we are happy to give you the data and the things that we can, which will be allowed for anybody in the public to have it, to build your own business plan. We are today heavily working with all the different airports in terms of the master plans and dedication of the area for the GA terminals, which when this is going to be happen, and this is going to be happening very soon this year, that we can be allowing the companies to come and invest and look to what is the best for them at whatever the business model fits for them. We are looking also for the MRO services. Today we know that we have a lack of the MRO services in the Saudi market. We are looking also to have at least 2 to 3 players in the MRO that will be distributed around the kingdom in different places to accommodate all the different traffic of the GA from east to west, north to south. We are also looking for the hangarage, which is very important, and I keep pushing all the airport even today that we need to have the hangarage as one of the priority for all the GA areas. We also working with King Salman in the terms of the master plan to see what we can do to expedite the hangarage area. We also looking and talking to a lot of different FBOs today in the market internationally, MRO providers and fuel farms, catering, all the different services. The list goes on. We are talking to everybody to see whoever is willing to come into the market. The market is opening up slowly, gradually as we go on, as the airports are ready to go out to the market, and we would like to see whoever is looking into those services. The GA today, we see this is as a global hub for the general aviation. The FBO and the ground services will be very much open to a competitive rather than today, which is very much limited to a couple of players in the GA. We see the MRO to be coming up very soon, and all the enablers that we see even internally within the regulation in terms of the regulatory streamlining, the digitization of the transformation we see in the process, where it will be much more easy and friendly for the users to use. So all those are happening as we speak. You will probably hear today and tomorrow a lot of announcement in the GA sector where the companies are coming and signing an MOU and agreements with the different players, whether those are international players who are signing with the local partners, or it's with the regulators and with other entities from the government entities. So those are happening today as we speak, today and tomorrow. So you will see more. This is a very good positive signal for all of you, and as an indicator that the market is opening up and the people are interested to come to the market. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we have another 2 minutes left. I would like to have a short contribution from all my panelists, John and Kevin. First, starting with John, what is very exciting about sitting in Saudi Arabia for both of you, or what excites you about the GA sector of Saudi? Very briefly.
I think in one sentence, they're open for business. You know, and I think that's very exciting for us to be able to develop and be a part of it. You know, it's that's exactly what I'd say in one sentence: open for business.
Thank you, Kevin.
Because we, in the past years, we already have the experience operation in this market. So now the open doors even bigger. So the great potential is there. We have more confidence on this.
Thank you. Joseph and Arnaud, how can we make and deliver a better customer experience? In one sentence.
Please, I'll let you go first.
I think how do we deliver a better customer experience? On the helicopter side, I will not go on your fields. Infrastructure will be always and will always remain the key. We were talking about infrastructure. I will need to hear more about helipads at some stage.
That's part of it.
You need to take off somewhere, you need to land somewhere, and you need to land and take off at the closest place of where you are going. So as I said, and I will always repeat, the customer experience is time. Time matters, and the best journey for them is FBOs, no matter how beautiful they are. If it is for the people around the VIP, that's great. The VIP doesn't want to spend time in FBO. He wants just to fly, get there quickly, and come back as quick as possible. So journey, for me, it's time.
Thank you. Joseph?
I concur with Arnaud. Thank you very much for mentioning that. Time in owning a business jet is key. And I think for our owners here in Saudi Arabia, they want to see the ease of flying on their private jet as they would in other parts of the world happen here in Saudi Arabia. So, you know, what Imtiaz said earlier by opening up some new general aviation airports, that's new to me. And if I've heard it, it's new to the audience. And, you know, we knew in the background it was going to happen, but this is very impressive. We're very excited. And if I end with this word, I'm astonished by this industry. It is a fabulous industry to be in, and I think the future looks very bright.
Thank you so much. I think we are at the top of the hour. Thank you to all my panelists.
Thank you.
Please re-invite me after another 5 years and let me experience another cycle of growth. Thank you all. I hope you really appreciated the session. I think it was very informative. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we start? Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us to what I believe is going to be a very exciting discussion. Maybe I'll just start off by saying that having been in this sector and industry for a while now, we can always count on the fact that it's continuously transforming. It's continuously changing. But I also want to add on, I personally believe that there is no more exciting place to be in aviation than in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia right now on the planet. The amount of capital that we're seeing, the amount of businesses that we're seeing, the amount of ecosystem coordination that we're seeing, and just look around you here today, the amount of excitement that's in the air because of this sector, I believe is bar none. To talk to us about this and to talk to us about how this sector is transforming itself, we've put together this esteemed panel of colleagues that represent the ecosystem. So rather than me introduce them, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves through a question. Maybe I'll start off with you, Owais. Please tell us who you are, what role do you play in this ecosystem, what have you done, and where are you taking us?
First of all, thank you. Thanks to GACA for organizing such an amazing event. That's the 3rd edition, and it's for anybody who is leading this sector is a dream come true. So everybody who I wanted to see here is here, right? So I don't have to go around the world and chase them. Everybody that I wanted is here. So it's fascinating to see the progress during this 3rd edition. So thanks to GACA for hosting this event. Thanks for inviting us, and thanks to Bain and Akram for inviting me here. In terms of myself, I am sector head for aviation and security for Public Investment Fund. My role is to develop strategies, execute them, and generate sustainable returns for our shareholder, which is PIF. The way we look at strategy is through a very unique position that PIF is in. We are slightly different than most sovereign wealth funds around the world, where we have a very comprehensive mandate. It starts from strategy articulation, sector development, and then investment management, which makes my life much easier than only pockets of investments. And I'll give you a little bit of perspective on what we have done in terms of aviation and strategy. So we started a couple of years back, around 2020, 2019, 2020, working on our strategy. What would be the sector strategy? And core element of this strategy was looking at the ecosystem as a whole, looking at the value chain as a whole, and spotting the big impact investments. So since capital is always finite, we have to make sure that we identify the opportunities which has the biggest impact. So large value movers. So we looked at the ecosystem. We started with helicopter company, the only commercial helicopter operator. There was nobody before. We were utilizing regional services. Arno just came in, our CEO for a helicopter company. He's usually on time, a little bit late today. So we started with helicopter company, no commercial operator. We were using regional services, and we were utilizing international players. Fast forward 3 years, 4 years, we have 50 helicopters. We are serving across verticals. Usually helicopter operators don't do that. We operate on multiple verticals. I can't go in details, but it's a fascinating journey so far. Great management team and a lot of support from the shareholder. Riyadh Air, again, very close to the national aviation strategy, which guided us on two-hub strategy, where Saudi would look into western part of the country, and then Riyadh Air will grow, and Adam will give us more details as we speak. And then the other value unlocker was a leasing business. This country had 200 aircraft. Over next several years, we will add possibly 300 additional aircraft. With a portfolio of 500 aircraft, not having a leasing company, was an easier decision for us to execute. We invested in a leasing business, homegrown, organic, Saudi-branded, Saudi-born entity. Today, 24 months down, it's a $7 billion AUM. So I think the whole strategy articulation is impact investing. What are the dollars that we're going to put are going to create the largest impact from a GDP multiplier, from job creation perspective, and for the financial returns. I hope.
Thanks always. I mean, from a business model point of view and from a sovereign wealth fund point of view, the business model is really one of stimulating what we're hearing, really articulating the national aviation strategy into execution, but in a well thought out way. We also happen to be lucky enough that we've got not one, but two airlines in a very different business model sitting on this panel. So maybe I'll go to Adam first. You happen to be in an enviable position, Adam. You're starting an airline from scratch. How do you think about your position, the position of this kingdom, and your contribution towards that from a Riyadh Air perspective? And please tell us who you are before you start with your answer.
Sure. So, Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon. I'll compliment rather than repeat what Ovais mentioned. But so I'm Adam Bucadido, I'm the Chief Financial Officer at Riyadh Air. Simply put, our mandate is to transform the vision of leadership in the kingdom, supported by the shareholder and PIF, into real life when it comes to commercial aviation. Now, unlike many airlines around the world, we have a blank canvas, which comes with lots of opportunities, but equally comes with a high demand and expectation around that attention to detail when it comes to guest service. And what we have been very vocal around over the last 12 months in particular is around our digital and innovation mandates. So changing the landscape from the end-to-end service that each of our travellers, starting from the summer of next year, which we're on track to commit to, in terms of enhancing that experience at every single touch point seamlessly. I know we're going to talk a little bit around AI and Gen AI later on. Equally, what we're here to do is to connect Riyadh to the world and the world to Riyadh. We heard that this morning in the opening remarks and many of the other sessions that we've been fortunate to have today. Our mandate, as I said, is very, very clear in that regard. What we're also here to do is to work with not just the aviation ecosystem, where we've got many of the key figures here, but a broader kingdom ecosystem. You would have seen us, for example, announce a relationship in June of last year with Lucid Motors. Okay, so again, linking in digital, linking in innovation, linking in sustainability, which is also key to all of us as human beings, let alone citizens of the kingdom.
Oh, fantastic. And maybe I'll jump over to Stephen all the way at the end. And Stephen, you operate a completely different business model within this ecosystem. There are some similarities, of course. But as one of the main low-cost carriers, and throughout the course of the day today, we were hearing about connectivity, etc. How do you think about your operation? How do you think about your operation's growth and the business model that you want to implement in your operation? And please introduce yourself as you're giving us your answer.
Salam, Stephen Greenway, Chief Executive Officer of Flyer Deal for 6 months, I think, yeah. So relatively new to the kingdom, but have worked in the Middle East. For most of you, I think you probably know that Flyer Deal is one of 9 SBUs, strategic business units within the Saudia group. You've obviously got Saudia, I think everyone knows, but you have Flyer Deal, which is my booming voice. You have Flyer Deal, which is the low-cost subsidiary within the group. So we have a mission within the group. We have a mission within the kingdom. The group is to be able to cover off the price-sensitive customer segments within the kingdom and overseas. And obviously for the kingdom, it's about stimulating growth. That's what LCCs are about, is that you're offering affordability that other airline models won't necessarily be able to match. And so we're a bus. There's nothing romantic about it. We try to be on time, try to be clean. We try to offer the cheapest fare that we possibly can, as frequently as possibly can. So if you look at Riyadh Jeddah, we're operating about 23 services a day each way, which is phenomenal, because if you think about Riyadh Jeddah in itself in terms of capacity, it wasn't even in the top 10 only a handful of years ago. Now I think in a year's time we'll be at the top. So that sort of demonstrates the growth within the kingdom and what is going on. We're predominantly a domestic carrier. 80% of our capacity is here in the kingdom at this moment in time, so very much committed to the kingdom and domestic capacity and moving people around within the kingdom. However, for those of you who were living under a rock today, you probably heard about the aircraft order that just happened. 105 aircraft being ordered by the Saudia Group, the largest in the kingdom's history, for A320s and A321neos. Out of those 105, 51 come to Flyadeal. 39 of those are A321s of 240 seats, and the rest are A320s. Net, that takes us up to, within 4 years, 88 aircraft. So when I say net, we're moving out of our old CO aircraft, the older generation aircraft, into the newer generation. So we've got a huge amount of growth. We're tripling in size in 4 years, which is a huge ask. But that's the confidence we have in the kingdom. That's the confidence we have in what's going on here. And we'll also transform. As I said, it was 80-20 in terms of capacity in the kingdom and 20% international. In the next few years, you'll see 50-50. So we'll continue growing domestically, but a lot of our attention will now be bringing people to the kingdom, also pilgrims to the kingdom, a whole range of new customer segments that we don't serve currently. So we're very much changing with the order book that we've got coming over the next couple of years as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, Stephen. Ayman, I'd like to come to you next. We've heard numbers from National Aviation Strategy, 330 million passengers by 2030. 93 or 90 plus million of those are going to come through your operation, sir.
Yeah.
How do you think about that? How do you think about the business model that you currently have and taking it towards achieving that? And if you don't mind introducing yourself before giving us your answer.
Thank you very much, Awais. Akram. Ayman Abu Abad, Riyadh Airport CEO. And I think you came from the top. As you know, that the national strategy for transportation and logistics set a clear target for the aviation, and the national strategy for aviation set a clear target for the all airports in Saudi Arabia, especially the capacity that should reach 330 million in general, and as well as in the cargo should be like 4.5 million metric ton, and etc. You know, all the ambitious target. And Riyadh portion, Riyadh is a main hub today within this strategy, and it carry part of those target, and it carry at least 50% of those target. So in Riyadh we are targeting to hit the 93 million passenger by 2030, 1.5 million metric ton in cargo, and 150 destination out of 250 total destination once it comes to the destination from Saudi Arabia. So that's the overall goals that carry out by RAK. If you look at the capacity that we have today, it's like 30 million within the available facility from the terminal and the aerodrome in general. RAK's work today in a very smart engineering methodology to build up the step. It's the short-term expansion program with multi-project. Those projects are going in sequence and in parallel to maintain the capacity growing down the road during the implementation. Nowadays, we have Terminal 1 out of service for full rehabilitation. And that will double the capacity for Terminal 1 by changing the layout, changing the modifying, you know, the overall process area. So from 3 million design, 5 operation or 5.8 operational capacity, we made it to reach like 8 million or 12 million with 40 million with the concourse that we built it. So the link have been expanded. You know, we rehab 3 and 4, so we learn from the 3 and 4. So we're taking the learned lesson to 1 and 2 today. So 1 is out of service, then 2 will go out of service. We'll bring 1 back to operation, building the concourse A, concourse H, and rehabilitating the Terminal 2, and doing the whole project with the project in the aerodrome in general to maintain that we have the capacity within the terminal and aerodrome. You know, the capacity, it's not only the terminal itself, it's the aerodrome, it's the traffic, it's the aerospace, it's everything around the movement. The three main objects that you're serving in the airport, it's an aircraft, it's a passenger, it's a luggage. So you need to maintain all of those touch point and process area are growing in parallel in sequence to ensure that you maintain the capacity. So we're building up the capacity toward at least 56 million by 2027. And we know all that King Salman project nowadays is taken over in order to develop the whole area. So we're working with our partner, King Salman project, to maintain that we have the right, handover and in sequence, continuing work hand to hand. In the same time, I believe, in Riyadh today, we're working to have the right partnership with the main carrier, which is Riyadh Air today. We have a strong relationship with Saudi Airline, Flynas, Fly Adil, the national carrier, and the international carrier. We're building the destination. So this year, we add at least 7 destinations only in Q1 and Q2. So we're expecting now we reach like 87 destinations coming from 75 destination last year. So if you look at that destination, it's growing year over year. So the destination will be achieved ahead of 2030, inshallah. In the same time, if you look at the other stakeholder, like the regulatory affairs, which is GACA and other regulatory within the process area, other stakeholder like the government affairs, anyone does have any touch point with the passenger journey, he's a main stakeholder. And anyone that he does have a valuable contribution within the movement is a stakeholder. So last not least is the MRO. So we have a strong relationship today with my colleague Fahad Sindi, and we start build up that relation in order to ensure that we have the right enablement and support whenever it's needed for the aircraft, because I told you aircraft, passenger and baggage. This is the main component that we're serving in the airport. Thank you.
Appreciate that. It's a lot of planes. It's a lot of planes coming in and coming out. The planes need to be airworthy. And that's where I come to you, Captain Fahad. Saudia Technique is obviously a hallmark. It has been renamed to Saudia Technique recently, part of the whole rebranding exercise. It's a hallmark MRO provider out of the kingdom. But given what I'm hearing, you're going to get very busy very quickly. How are you positioning yourself towards doing that? I'm sure we'd like to hear some more. And if you don't mind introducing yourself before you give us the answer.
Well, thank you, Akram. Assalamu alaikum, jazakumullah bil khair, ikhwan. My sincere appreciation to the GACA team. What an amazing event. Just networking with our colleagues in the professional network here, industry peers and veterans from all over the world converging in Riyadh to my heart. So I've been in this industry 26 years. Not as long as others have been in this industry in the room, but this is all I know and this is all I love. I was just having a discussion with Their Excellencies early on in the morning when somebody said, is Fahad ex-Aramco? No, Fahad is Saudi. No, Fahad is this. I was like, I'm not tied to any of this. I'm tied to the industry. I'm an employee of the aviation sector in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, wherever it goes is where I'll go. And where we're going is something amazing. This once in a life generation, once a generation revolution, a transformation across everything in the kingdom. But if we focus on our sector, we're truly embarking, and we've already taken off, on a completely different destination than we've started in 2019. Innovation, not just in terms of the air travel experience, not just in terms of the airport experience and the passenger experience, not just in terms of the funding and access to equity and the intelligent financing that is taking place, but positioning the kingdom to be a thought leader in a sector that is very well matured and stagnated since the 90s, maybe later part of the 80s. When we talk about rebranding as Saudi and Saudia Technique, it wasn't just the rebranding as Saudia Technique. It was unveiling a new identity. So we are very cognizant of what's happening. We see the massive order of aircraft, but we're also seeing the supply chain shortages. We see the disruption that is happening. For the first time, this supply chain disruption is actually being felt by operators, not just OEMs. So it's not just Boeing and Airbus and Embraers that are feeling the burn. It is the actual operators. As the demand for air travel increase and continue to increase, we see the older fleet staying more and more in business. And that comes at a cost, and that comes at efficiency measures. And that was an opportunity for us as Saudi Technic and as a national champion of the MRO in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. How can we build robust capabilities for the future, but also unveil much needed efficiencies in the existing fleet to prolong its service, so that we do not end up with the deficit in the seating capacity that we're looking for, that we're started taking shape and it's holding its own definition over the past 4 years. But very quickly, in a recent meeting with His Excellency Minister of Industry and His Excellency Ibrahim Al-Umar and His Excellency Saleh Yasser, we recognized that it's outgrowing its village aspect of the name, and it's very quickly becoming an industrial park. 1 million square meters of robust capabilities in terms of aircraft servicing, everything nose to tail, to the point where we had to redefine who we are from being an MRO to being an MRO plus plus. A lot of folks ask, so what is the plus plus you keep talking about? Is, first of all, an MRO service is maintenance, repair, and overhaul. That's boring business. An airplane comes in, and I always tell my colleagues here, I'm a glorified mechanic. I'm a glorified body shop. If there is a dent, I fix it. If there is an engine, I drop it. If there's brakes, I'll change it. But that's not what this industry needs. That's not what the vision of the country needs. That's definitely not what Riyadh Air and my colleagues at Fly Adil, Fly Nas, and Saudi are looking for. They're looking for a robust partner that could take efficiency to the next level. And efficiency comes across the entire segment of sustainability. So to us, our strategy is built around one concept, sustainability. But that concept is 5 pillars. So common, when you talk about the common perception, when you say sustainability, everybody thinks environmental sustainability. But sustainability in our definition is a 5-pronged approach. Operational sustainability, financial sustainability, technological, digital sustainability, talent sustainability, last but not least is environmental sustainability. And to each one of these streams, we have incredible enablers and initiatives that are catering towards the peak performance at each. We talk about operational sustainability. Operational excellence is a massive concept in our organization. We bring it to heart not just through boardroom discussion, but hundreds of people on the ground trained in operational excellence. How can you unlock the next level of efficiency? Because that's the name of the game. Every airline, whether it's a full-cost carrier or a low-cost carrier, everybody wants to be efficient. Everybody wants that healthy balance sheet, that healthy P&L. What can you do to slim down costs, and what can you do to improve on the profitability, which then you could take back and invest into your business. So Awais talked about shareholder return. And his return is not just financial returns, it's operational returns, safety return, quality returns, and a self-fulfilling prophecy from there on. Our MRO village, the moment we turn on the switch, ended this year, beginning in next year, inshallah, will be 28% sustainable. 28% of our power will come from renewable sources. We're targeting 49%. We started the journey with Ayman when he was at Jetco, and now we're continuing the journey with Mazen Johar at Jetco for our solar farm. 28%. It's an entire program that we established with Saudi Aramco that will be at play the moment we turn the switch on. And that positioned the kingdom to truly walk the talk. COP28 requirements, our paint shop will be the first to be established with COP28 emission requirements. Now, it's a big statement from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. We're investing where we advocate we're going to be. Our financial sustainability, I'm sitting next to our maintenance spends, which, by the way, are forecasted by 2029 to be north of 17 billion. 80% of that was cash leakage outside the kingdom. Now we're aiming for 90% of that to stay in the country by 2027. These are ambitious targets and very ambitious programs that we have. And when we look at all of that, we operate our current facilities and capabilities with slightly less than 5,000 young men and women. 91% are Saudis, 5,000 mechanics and engineers. That number is going to more than triple to nearly 15,200 or so in under 3 years. So how do we harness talent? How develop talent? We're coming out of COVID, where a lot of talent in the sector have retired and never come back. So not only did we lose headcount, we lost experience. How do we build that back that experience? How can we use technology to help us bridge the gap between what we're developing and the experience that left and never came back? Yep. So these are all some of the problems that we have at our table, some of the elements that we're working on. For that particular segment, we're developing an academy that will graduate 1,200 mechanics a year. Less than 3 years ago, Saudi Technic Academy was no more than 30 graduates a year. Now we stand at 420 or so graduates a year in 3 years. This is not just the work of Saudi Technic. This is the work of the Ministry of Human Resources, Ministry of Investment, Ministry of Finance, the PIF, Saudi. It's the whole ecosystem coming at play. And allow me just to end with this. I've been in this industry for 26 years. I love you all, but I think I'll be here for the next 26 years. Will you move on with your careers? I'll still be here. This is my personal cause. For this, I came to this life. It's as simple as that. You talk to everybody that knows me. I'm a jack of none except aviation. I just know this industry, and I plan to depart this industry never. I'm staying in this industry. So, in the 26 years that have elapsed, I've never seen the sector come together like this.
Yeah.
You'll be amazed the number of alignment meetings we have. Not official capacity meetings. The number of dinners, coffee discussions, phone discussions. I nag Ziad, God bless, 3 times a week. And after Ziad, it's Oais. And after Oais is Tony. And after Tony is Peter. And then on to Steve. And then to His Excellency. We talk to each other all the time. And that positive energy that has gathered over the past few years, it is something we must protect. Our walls are down. Our collaboration is higher than ever. And through that collaboration across the industry, across the sector, we truly can position the kingdom ahead of 2030, not just as a thought leadership, but as a beacon, an example of what a successful ecosystem looks like.
Yeah, I love that. I actually wanted to try and see if we can take that discussion there. And I mean, what I heard from all of the answers was innovation doesn't only come in that typical format that we think of it, as in technological innovation, etc. Some of the answers that we heard was that it's actually, it's sometimes just deploying of a strategy in the right way, in a flexible way. That's innovative. You mentioned the word putting down the walls, and absolutely, we see it. We see it across conferences like this, but also in the one-on-one settings that we have. When we get to this ecosystem, another big theme that I heard from an innovative aspect is this understanding that this is an ecosystem play. There is room for this full service carrier and the low cost carrier and the other full service carrier. There's a room for expansion airline. There's a need for an MRO, but there's an ecosystem. How can we make it better for you so that we can all succeed? However, we look at things in our individual roles in a different way. So, we talk about 2030 as a point in time, as a destination. I'm actually interested to find out more about how do you look at the journey towards that destination. And maybe we'll start with yourself as an investor. How do you build in the path? How do you think about that?
First of all, I'm very happy that Captain Fahad will continue for next 26 years. So we don't have to worry about
I don't know anything
succession planning there. So, look, I think as we all are talking about Vision 2030, National Aviation Strategy, I think these are our inspirations. I think all our strategies are based on those directions. And then we create North Stars for ourselves. And these North Stars guide us to put together those business plans. And then they translate into those journeys, right? So again, going back to helicopter company or our business jet business, we have a North Star in mind where we know that we have to create a infrastructure and a foundation for Vision 2030 targets and National Aviation targets. Are we going to achieve all these targets today? No, we cannot achieve all these targets today. So when we build our business, we always keep it modular. We want to keep those flexibilities in place. So right now, if I have a target of 330 million passengers, I think this is our North Star. We are putting together the foundations and making sure that we are heading towards those targets. But if there is any positive shock or negative shock, we can always scale back or accelerate our scale. So that's something that we are constantly talking about, and the phone calls and the dinners and coffee meetings are usually to support how are we getting ourselves ready to deliver those promises that we made to the leadership, to the ecosystem, and also to the global community, because our aspiration is not only to serve Kingdom, right? We want to be the globally competitive ecosystem which serves everybody better.
Yeah, that word of ecosystem, and maybe Ayman, I'll come to you next. One would argue, and one can argue, you sit at the middle of that ecosystem. The planes come to where you are. The funds come to where you are, especially the funds that we're talking about with the city of Riyadh. you are in some extent the node, and you've got service requirements, by the way, sitting on the left and the right of you, which are different. And I'm actually interested as how you're planning on getting this ecosystem to make sure that it works seamlessly. You gave us some of that in the beginning. Peel that onion for me a little bit.
Thank you. As you know, the airport is the heart of that body.
Yep.
And if that heart fail, everyone will fail. For God willing, inshallah. So our role today is to ensure that heart is, in a good health. So I'm always using that 3-dimension. First of all, we focus on the human capital as the main capital investment. So talent incubation, succession planning, expansion. Having Iraq today as a university, we know that we're losing a lot of talent from year over year, but that's a good sign that we are a talent incubator. So we build up a succession planning from a human capital point of view. So we're focusing on the entire home to be built right. So we never run out of an expert, and Riyadh Airport support other airports at several times, and at any time we are ready to support. And today it's not a secret that Riyadh Airport are moving for RAC Plus, which is we're willing and we are targeting to operate airports in Saudi Arabia and out of Saudi Arabia. So that's by building the human capability and to retaining the local content and to continue having the talent. That's one. Second is the facility expansion, which I talk about the project. So that's from the facility itself. But third, it's about the process, because the capacity is either piece of time or space. So whenever you expand the space or you minimize the time of a process, it's a capacity. So the smart way to do it is to ensure the passenger journey with zero human intervention. Nowadays in Riyadh, I assure you that you can do whatever you want to do to travel, making your reservation, having your boarding, self-drop baggage, no need to talk to anyone. And we have today an initiative for door-to-door. And we're working in a BOCs now today, but eventually you will have the luggage from door-to-door. Then, when the passenger come to the airport, he don't need to talk to anyone. He go to the just self-drop. He just took his tags, the tag for the baggage. He move forward. He go for the iValidate. Just scan your boarding pass. The e-pass today with biometric, facial recognition, fingerprint, recognizing the national ID or GCC ID with your passport. If you just put your information in the reservation according to the correct information about yourself, you just pass through the e-pass. You go only now for security screening, which is eventually will have the CT scan, we call it. So we're still working to develop that. The only touch point with a human intervention, it's the security check. So with that seamless journey, we're shortening the time factor, which gaining more capacity. So wherever I talk about capacity, it's a design capacity. So Riyadh will have 55 million design capacity. Meanwhile, with this just enhancement in Terminal 1, before it goes for rehabilitation, the capacity was 3 million and we run 6 million. So by improving the process, ensuring that you align with all stakeholders, as I said, all stakeholders with more than 17 entity of a security, military, government, all of them are interfering in that passenger journey. You need to meet all the security requirement, all safety requirement, and operational efficiency and operational excellence, as my colleague Fahad actually mentioned. Maintaining the 5 main pillars of a sustainability. So doing all of that, you're maintaining the sustainability from an operational, from financial, from ecosystem, from environmental, and doing this, the communication from different level, from the execution level, from the executive level, from the planning level. So nowadays we have the strategy and we share it with King Salman project, with Riyadh Air, with Saudi Airline, with everyone. So communicating your future plan with your main stakeholder and main player mean you set the expectation right. And you have the alignment with everyone. Having the day-to-day communication, as Mr. Vaz says, we're just, having that collaborative communication platform with this forum and out of this forum. Nowadays, I believe that you can pick up a phone to anyone in the aviation, you talk about any challenge, you sit as one-to-one, you sort it out. You don't need to go to the regulatory or you go to someone to escalate. You don't need to do that today. I think, and by practice, there were a lot of challenges, whether when I work in Jeddah or now in Riyadh, and it's solved in no time. If you have the goodwill, clear plan, transparency, clear goal, your partner will respect that, but you have to be very clear. So, constructive communication with your main stakeholder. For Riyadh Air, for example, when I work in Terminal 1, I brought them to the layout. Said, you're gonna be my main carrier. What do you want? Which lounges you are looking for? What does your passenger journey look like? What is in your mind? I need to consider it now in the design. So, having that kind of strong alignment with your partner gonna build up the right platform to succeed and to accommodate, keeping that heart in a good health. Blinking with a good fresh blood.
Yep. And we'll come back to Riyadh Air because there's a lot of excitement about what Riyadh Air is going to offer. But before we come back to Riyadh Air, Stephen, in your first elaboration of the question, you mentioned going to and adding a 51 number aircraft to your fleet over the next 5 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that correct?
More than that, but I mean, I was just referring to the order we literally had today, which is 51. But we've still got deliveries coming, and then topped up with another 51, so close to 100.
And we're talking about a scale of growth that is really, requires quite a bit of planning, thinking, and maybe using one of our ways is where the shock waves that can happen and managing to that.
Yeah.
What is your approach towards this, the management of that over the next 6 to 7 years? Who in the system are you, or in the ecosystem, to use Ayman's word, who are you relying on?
Yeah. So I think Captain Sydney said it well. I mean, there's the formal apparatus, there's the formal meetings, national aviation strategy, et cetera, et cetera. There was only one in Riyadh a couple of weekends ago where we all got together and we talked about the challenges. There's the informal, which is lovely. There is no fear to just to pick up a phone and say, I need some assistance here. I've got something stuck, something's not working. And you're encouraged to do that. I think that's the important thing. You're actually encouraged to just pick up the phone and talk through the issue quickly, get a resolution. And it seems very simple, but that doesn't exist in a lot of jurisdictions around the world. And I can tell you that now, having been in Canada and stuff, you couldn't do what we're doing here in terms of just that general level of cooperation, because everyone is very focused on one mission. And I think that changes the dynamic completely. So that's number one. Number two had nothing to do with me. I'd love to take credit, but I see a lot of components of the ecosystem starting to mature quite rapidly. Saudi Technic is a good example. Captain Cindy spoke about that very eloquently. That capacity is ramping up. I'm seeing, I think I'm the only LCC that doesn't struggle with pilots. People always come to me and say, well, how's your pilot problem? I say, I don't have a pilot problem, mate. We've got pilots coming through the national system in terms of training. They train in the US, they train here, what have you. They're coming through. We have a cadetship program that is oversubscribed by a factor of 10. So we have a huge reservoir of individuals who are coming online as pilots. Cabin crew we don't have an issue with. We're seeing talent come through the system from the universities, from other components in the ecosystem as well. So that it really is it coalescing completely together? No, I don't think any of us would say it's absolutely perfect. We're still working at it, and there's much work to be done. But what I am seeing is just from a sensor perspective, when I've been in other jurisdictions, is just I am seeing it come together quite nicely. A lot of work to be done. But that gives me a degree of comfort that anyone who sits here and says that you're tripling in size in 4 years' time, you'd sort of be scratching your head going, I don't necessarily know how we're going to do this. And all I would say is I'm not alone. All of us are challenged by this, be it passenger growth, be it a startup of a new airline, be it the growth that Captain Sydney spoke about, etc., etc., etc. We're all in this together, and we're all trying to work out how to overcome the challenges and everything. But I'm heartened by the support that I've been getting. I've been on the ground for 6 months, from GACA to the Saudia group to all the components, to the airports and what have you. There is that level of support that I've never seen before. And so that gives me confidence. But I think that for us, the challenges are always the challenges of any airline that are growing. Everything from the OEMs and just getting your aircraft on time, all the way through to how am I going to crew these, to where am I going to fly them. And again, the ecosystem is coalescing around that in terms of some of the support mechanisms that we have, particularly for international flying and building destinations and so forth into the kingdom. So I don't rest easily because I know it's a huge job, but I do have, I suppose, a degree of confidence that I wouldn't necessarily have in perhaps in other jurisdictions around the world. And I think that's a great thing to have.
Yeah. I think that positioning is quite clear. And obviously, I want to come to you, Adam, and I want to ask you a different question, if I may. Take me to 2030, show me that vision in your mind. What is Riyadh Air's role in that ecosystem, and describe it to us in a few sentences, if you don't mind.
Sure. I echo all the comments here, by the way, about the broader ecosystem. And the key thing here is it's not always full alignment. We also keep each other honest, which is extremely important. Be it, if I can, Captain Cindy, the body shop, be it, if I can, the bus. We are actually a digital company that happens to be a premium full-service carrier in the future that's going to transport millions and millions of passengers into Riyadh Airport. So if I bridge that on now to 2030, we will be, as I said, a digitally enabled business, an airline. We will look at the ultimate service level when it comes to pre-boarding, boarding, booking, all the way through a cabin. And again, our cabin will be spectacular, but we'll service every sort of wallet availability out there. Because again, we're demonstrating what the kingdom needs, and we're demonstrating the growth plans that the kingdom has, both in terms of the growing population here, some in the room, but also on a global scale. We'll also do that with partnerships here today that are not here today, but on an international basis. So again, you've seen some announcements that we've done with the likes of IBM, with Accenture, and many, many more to come. We're also changing when it comes to the onboard service. So again, a big part of that will be digitally driven, all the way from your IFE, so your entertainment system when you're on that flight, the way you choose your food and beverage options as well. And this will be delivered by the best trained cabin crew that you have out there. Now, you've heard, obviously, Tony, our CEO, said today, we're looking very forward to June, the second half of June, when we'll be announcing what we call the cabin crew fashion. Again, it's first of its kind out there in global aviation. It's first in its kind out there, actually, in global transportation. Okay, taking it broader outside of aviation. But for us, it's keeping that key DNA of what the kingdom offers as well, because that's very, very important, and we shouldn't also lose focus on that as we continue to challenge each other, as we continue to partner with each other and deliver that 2030 combined strategy.
Fantastic. And Captain Fahad, I'm going to build off your first answer, and based on your 26 years. And to drive some competitive global spirit, I'm going to ask you a question. 2031, what is the rest of the world looking at the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and saying, wow, they have done? Complete this sentence, Captain Fahad. They have done. How would you describe
They have
it?
solved the 5-variable equation. In physics, astrophysics, there is something called the three-body problem. You guys may have seen it, read about it. It's impossible to predict a behavior, gravitational behavior of three bodies in 3D space. Impossible. I think in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we're going to solve all 5 variables by 2030. the operational, the financial, the technology, the human resources, and the skilled talent, the continuous flow of that talent, and the environmental commitment, we're going to solve it. Mark my word, we're going to solve it. We're getting there. Right now, all 4 or 5 variables are up in the air. How are we doing that? Enabling everybody. We're seeing what's happening right now. What's happening in the industry, if I might just if I give you something to imagine. You guys ever seen some of those studio recordings when they record albums and music and stuff? There is some interesting looking guys sitting on the side, playing and fiddling with switches up and down the whole time. No one knows what they're doing. I don't think they know what they're doing, but they're always tuning something. I understand this feeling now because I'm sitting in that room with my team and we're always tuning something. I thought it was just, what is this? Now we're doing it. This is the short-term reaction to perfecting the pitch of operation, to perfecting the launch of Riyadh Air, to perfecting the new customer experience Saudia, FlyNAS, and FlyAdil want to introduce. It's small, these tweaks. But alongside this, there's a whole different orchestra sitting in the back writing the next symphony. And that next symphony is going to come soon, very soon. Revolutions in symphony. And when I talk about revolutions, I'm talking about engines. Engines are the high. There is some in the aviation industry, and I'm speaking here under the supervision of everybody. You guys are a lot more experts in this than I am. But I heard it from you, first and foremost. After 10 to 15 years of operation, essentially you have paid for engines. The airplane comes for free. Engines is the key to localizing skill and knowledge in a very critical technology in the country. And we're investing heavy in those engines right now with the leadership of Ziad and his team. Operational excellence and efficiencies. We're realizing this right now. We have in the room, I see here, Anthony Lowry, one of the industry veterans, served across the entire globe as a VP technical, and I'm very happy of having Tony at the Saudi group. His approach to things and challenge to how things are done have enabled us to realize the next level of efficiency. I give you a recent example. Tony got on the phone with GE or Safran, I can't remember, or CFM, over fuel nozzles. Lately, there is an AD, very technical jargon. Something does come out and he goes, listen, it's going to take 3 days to replace these per engine. I need it to be done in 24 hours. Now, this is the OEM. It's going to take 3 days. We've done it in 24 hours because that's what he wants and that's what the mission requires. We got together and we said, we don't care what the OEM benchmark is. How can we do it reliably, with quality, with the safety in 24 hours? And it's not just about throwing bodies at it. So we're getting there. We're doing this. So listening, enabling the sector, solving for real life problems right now, while composing that symphony that we will together here in 2030, 2031, is something I'm seeing evident. How do we achieve this? Solving for today, but doing partnerships with our colleagues at Airbus, at Boeing, at Honeywell, at Thales, at Collins. These are all industry partnerships that were coming to fruition the moment we flip the switch on at the MRO Village or the Industrial Park. With Ayman and his vision, Riyadh Airport, over 40 years, in under 6 months, after 40 years, we're commissioning the 2 first commercial hangars at Riyadh Airport because we realize that's what Ayman needs to attract more connectivity into Riyadh. Folks want to fly in, airlines want to come in, but if you don't have the enablement of maintenance and ground services and catering, you're not going to be a desired destination. Yeah. All of that is coming in together. I'm very humbled to be joining my colleagues and my teams. And I leave just that question with the simple thing. We looked at ourselves, at least at Saudi Technic, and this happened also at a GACA workshop. I said that out publicly. I said, we want to ask ourselves a question. Do we want to be the best Saudi company or best Saudi industry in Saudi, operating globally, or do we want to be a global benchmark that happens to be positioned in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? And overwhelmingly, everybody said we want to be a global player that happens to be positioned in Saudi Arabia across the sector. And as a global player, we have access to global talent. And look around you. This is a global talent. 4 years ago, none of that global talent was here. They're here today because each and every one of them have bought into the vision that we're building in this sector in the Kingdom. And I thank you for being with us on this ride, and we're going to make you proud collectively.
I completely can see that now. You've made me believe, Captain Fahad. We would be amiss. The amount of data that's going to be coming out from this panel's companies is absolutely tremendous. Very, very simply, and please, whoever wants to jump in, just jump in and tell me, but how are you thinking about AI, Gen AI in your businesses? And I can see Ayman's already coming to answer, so maybe I'll come to Ayman first. But there's no doubt that the data lake that's going to be created out of our operations 2030, 2031 is going to be immensely valuable to the ecosystem. How do you think about that? And if we can keep it to 1 minute across the board, because we do need to wrap up.
Thank you. I get ready because you touch the most important thing. This is my blood. The blood in the airport is the data. And because we have integrated data, we build up the seamless passenger journey. There are a lot of, stakeholder, and they are very strong stakeholder, and they are robust stakeholder. Those stakeholder, they have requirements. So if you didn't meet their requirement, they will never share the data or integrate the data. So you need to meet the accepted level of a security in order to have that integrated data platform. The airline does have a data, the ground handler, the airport, all the stakeholders, the immigration, the custom, everyone does have his data. So having that data with an integrated platform, secured, will give you the backbone for the national data and for the passenger data. And that backbone will give you the multi-dimensional related database. This is the security interface, this is the airline interface, this is the airport interface. This will be a major component for the success. With that data and with the AI advanced application that you have, could have better efficient operation. You will toward the excellence of operation. You will have the best customer service with that data, personalization. So when I move in the airport, I see the advertisement that related to me. As you do today with the new search engine. When you become using the same account, it gave you what are you looking for before you just try to search, and you're surprised. That's the artificial intelligence and the generating artificial intelligence that knows exactly what are you looking for. Third, it will improve the security measure. So no need to do an extra precautions of a security to do it for the passenger journey. So that will be done by the security intelligence that's knowing your intention by the behavioral detection. Nowadays, when you move in some advanced airport, you just pass through every security touch point because the parameters show you are green. And if you just been in the first time in some airport, you go for SSS. Why am I selected as a security sample randomly? No, because your behavioral have been detected that you are a suspected person because you look panic. So having that data with security, with passenger journey, with operational efficiency, last but not least, is sustainability. Having that data will help me to operate in the best economy of scale to maintain the least price that I offer on my ground. So I'll be very attractive. Nowadays, we fight in the price with all partners because we're trying to maintain our profitability in the bottom line. Meanwhile, if we have the right data that we apply it and we play with it, I'm going to be in a very best financial sustainability, achieving my economy of scale. So I'm offering my services with the least price, competing globally, not only nationally.
Gotcha. And I'm assuming a lot of that answer also relates to you, Adam and Stephen, but you're in the business of trying to predict the future as well, and not just fix it as it's happening. Any additional thoughts on what was already mentioned from either of you?
Well, I think building on from what Ayman said earlier, we will use technology and AI because we have to. It doesn't matter if you're existing or you're creating. It's a way of the future for us now and our children in the future. If we take building on from the airport, your face is your passport, which is basically a summary of what Ayman said. We're going to take that even forward. It will be your boarding pass. It will be your login details and access to our lifestyle and loyalty program of the future. Now let's take that to our operating model. Does it make us better? For sure. Would it make what we do simpler? For sure. CFO would have to say this. Does it make it cheaper or more efficient? If you do it correctly, yes, it will. And we'll categorize that into 3 parts. So we will look at AI and Gen AI in regards to our customer experience, building on from what I just said. Your face is your passport, is every single travel documents and regulation requirement that you have. Secondly is our operational and safety measures, which again will be very similar to what I'm sure you'll hear from an MRO perspective. But thirdly is from a corporate perspective, which is equally important. We are growing aircraft orders this way, we are growing destinations this way, but also we're growing our people and our labour force that way as well. So for us to be able to retain, to train, develop, and actually more importantly, to create more time for them to think and to add value rather than to do the doing as it would be traditionally.
Yeah, the human capital element is actually quite that corporate management is quite impressive.
100%.
Stephen, would you like to?
Yeah, I think we look at it a slightly different way. I mean, to deliver a low fare, to deliver a 40 SAR fare or a 10 SAR fare or whatever it's going to be, we have to automate everything. And, we try to take as much manual processing out of the system as possible. So it's customer experience, but we've got to reimagine how we actually manage the whole process end to end. A good example is the team were very proud of our new mobile app at the start of the year, and I looked at the development pipeline and everything, and there was a missing piece, which was basically what's the North Star, and the North Star was for us 99% of all interactions need to be supported by the mobile app by the end of the year. Where we have to get there. I say 99%. I'm a realist. 100%. There's always one case that you need to handle with delicacy and manually. But I think that's the pathway we're heading. We do it just simply because we need to drive costs down. We need to keep we say efficient, everything efficient. I think the second thing is, at the end of the day, airlines themselves have been sitting on a huge amount of data for a very long time. Even your booking, your P&R, I know your credit card details, I know where you live, I know who's traveling, I know your sex, I know everything. And the question is, this keeps on coming up after decades and decades. Airlines are just miserable at using it, at deploying it in a meaningful way when it's needed and when it's required. And that is changing. But we've still got a lot of work to do. The final thing is what has already been mentioned by the panel. I'm a huge believer in sovereign identity. I never have to reach for my pocket to get my passport out. My face is my ID. I egress all the way through the airport experience and boarding and on board, and I don't have to touch anything. I don't have to do anything. And I'm also a qualified traveller in terms of security, which means a lot to me as well. And so from those type of things, we're seeing those building blocks now come to place, which is exciting. I think the great thing about the kingdom more than anything else is the regulatory regime is now catching up quite substantially. We're not seeing that in other jurisdictions. So from that perspective, I really do see things moving and progressing well in the next 1 to 2 years. And we're having to catch up in some cases in terms of what the airports are proposing and so forth. So we're prepared.
Yep. I mean, before we wrap this up, this must be of huge value for your preventative maintenance type of programs, but many other ones as well that potentially have been already mentioned. Is there anything you want to add to that perspective?
So I'm conscious of the time. I'm going to leave you guys with two things. Investment in technology is investment in research and development. It's not just about buying technology off the shelf and deploying it. That doesn't add value to a nation. Once again, like I said, I'm not leaving anytime soon. So I look at the greater value at the society, at the national level, at the societal level, and how does that work? So ST Nova is a patent that we're developing right now. We're actually developed it. We're in the process of getting the patent approved by the U.S. Patent Office as a brand for Saudia Technic. Essentially, it's a digital twin tracking and optimization software that allows you to track in real time everything that happens in maintenance from the moment a task card is initiated until the aircraft is pushed out. Tremendous value to the airlines. They'll be able to see exactly what's happening to their aircraft without having to step a foot in the hangar. Supported by cameras, but as actually the data is moving. The engineers, the mechanics, the parts, the tools, the resources, it's all moving in real time. And if it's going according to the path it's supposed to be, then it's green. If it's not, it's yellow. If it stops, it's red. All of that is then interrogated by the AI back power and says, and I'll give you a real example. It says, you're going through a bottleneck because your tool shop is on this side of the hangar, not on this side. Please move. We ended up moving the tool shop.
Oh, wow.
That's just an example of this. Captain Majid Sabbagh, Hussam Sagaf, you guys are here. It's all yours. I just signed the papers. That's all yours. Second thing I want to leave you with, what does the future hold for the aerospace industry and for the air travel industry? And I urge you to imagine with me that we always talk in Arabic about dua as-safar, the travel prayers, wa'atha as-safar, right? How overwhelming it is. It doesn't matter how easy the experience in Ayman's airport is. It's still a financial and emotional toll, and not a financial, emotional toll, maybe financial toll. When you go through the airports and the boarding process and what have you. Imagine this. What if the next trip you take, just like a train, you go up to the platform 5 minutes before the airplane departs, and that's it. You jump on, and it taxis off. Imagine this. I'm not saying it's applicable. I'm saying imagine. What prevents us from as an industry, to imagine that future? Second, Riyadh Air talked about the fashion in the cabin. Riyadh Air is talking about a standard. Riyadh Air is talking about a level never before seen. Guess what? Because that's the value proposition. Flying an airplane, everyone flies to the AOC standards and to the safety. So what if in the future, that is Riyadh Air? It's not necessarily what's in the cockpit. It's not necessarily who owns or operates the airplane. It's the service. All of a sudden, you're looking at a franchise model. You're looking at the Starbucks. You're looking at I'm not going to say McDonald's, but I know McDonald's because I'm not big into the 5-star dining, but imagine such, and that would be Riyadh Air.
That's fantastic.
That is the standard that they're going to deploy, and all of a sudden that becomes an Uberization model of our services. With these two things in the future, I think in the kingdom, we're closer than ever to deliver maybe a train-like experience, how fast it is in and out of the airport and to their plane, and to an Uberization model when it comes to flying aircraft. Thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Oh, absolutely, and obviously, if you want to add 30 seconds to this.
I know we are running out of time, and I have a huge respect for OTP. So I'll say Gen AI is not concept of future. It's present. We are embracing it. Portfolio Management 101. We are making this initiative at board level for all our portfolio companies to make sure that we drive that.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm super excited to be here in 2031 and see what these guys deliver to us. But I'm also just as excited for the next 6 years doing it with you. So I'm very, very, very happy. Thank you for joining us. Round of applause for this panel, if you don't mind.
Okay. Does this work? Does the mic work? Yes. Good afternoon, and welcome to our Sustainability and Net Zero session. We're ready to start now, so please take a seat if you're standing in the back. I'm Giorgio Parolini. I lead the aviation decarbonization work at the World Economic Forum, and I'm delighted to chair today's panel on sustainability and net zero. I was just talking about sustainability with a few CEOs of airports, but we're actually here in the panel with representatives from other actors that are very important on the aviation value chain. Regulators, airline representatives, and obviously academia as well. Without further ado, I'll introduce our panelists, starting from left to right. So we've got Rania Leontaridi, Director General for Aviation at the UK Department for Transport. Then we've got Rima Taya, Regional Director for External Affairs and Sustainability in the Middle East and North Africa for IATA. Then we've got Luis Ricardo de Sousa Nascimento, Deputy Director General of the National Civil Aviation Authority in Brazil. And last but not least, Dr. Abdo Egab, Lecturer of Gas Turbine, Course Director of Thermal Power and Propulsion at Cranfield University in the UK. So please welcome the four panelists with me on the stage. I'll ask each of you to very briefly introduce yourself, and as an ice-breaking question, talking about very briefly what your key commitment or action for sustainability is, starting from Rania.
Thank you. As you said, I'm Rania Leontaridi. I'm the Director General for Civil Aviation for the United Kingdom. And for us, and for me, and for the country, commitment to the civil aviation is giving certainty that we are 100% committed to progress with decarbonizing the aviation sector and putting the measures in place that we need, both domestically and globally, in a form of partnership and solidarity to achieve it.
Perfect. Rima.
Thank you. My name is Rima Tayyah. I'm Regional Director, External Affairs and Sustainability in Amman office in Jordan for IATA. So mainly I'm speaking on behalf of the airlines today. So the airlines in 2022, we announced the commitment by the airlines that we will fly net zero by 2050. So this is a big signal to the market that the airlines sent in order to achieve this big goal. But let's start with confirming that this is a challenge. This is a big challenge. This is not an easy target to achieve. And this is why we're here to work with everyone, in collaboration with everyone, to achieve this target. And the airlines, when we agreed on this, and the difficulty of this achievement, of this commitment, it shows because of the debate, the long debates that happened even before the airline took this commitment. Between the airlines, there were long debates about how this can be achieved. So this shows how difficult it will be, and this shows how it is important that we work together. Airlines did this commitment at a time where they were in real crisis. Absolutely. 2021, that was the year of airlines. They're still not out of COVID, but still they took they bring everyone together and they took this commitment. Many airlines had already different commitments that they had, but what we did in IATA is that we brought all our member airlines together in one joint commitment towards this big achievement.
Great, and we're going to talk about some of these challenges, some of the opportunities, and some of the actions that the value chain can take very shortly. Luis Ricardo.
Good afternoon to all. I'm Luis Nascimento from National Agência Civil Aviation at Brazil. Brazil has a long-standing tradition of producing ethanol and biodiesel, and this provides us a competitive advantage because we already have a consolidated bioenergy industry in our country. There is a bill right now submitted to the Brazilian government to the Congress, which is already being approved in one of the chambers. This bill is called for us Fuel for the Future and establish a mandate of carbon reduction to all domestic flights by the use of SAF in our country. The mandate is directed to Brazilian Airlines, of course, and it's complementary to Corsia. It also starts in 2027 with a carbon reduction of 1%, and by 2037 the reduction is 10%. In volumetric terms, this is 1% of reduction of CO2 can mean up to 4 or 5 in volume. This is our mandate and our achievement to our sector.
Great. And Abdul, last but not least.
Thank you, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Abdurrahman Hijab. First and foremost, I'd like to thank our hosts. I'm sorry about my voice. I lost it a couple of days in Mecca. Actually, it brings lots of good memories here when I come to Saudi Arabia. I was born here some 40 years ago. My eldest daughter was born here in Riyadh, actually, 15 years ago.
Great.
I have lots of lovely memory in this country. And I wish you all the best. What I have seen, I haven't come for a while, but what I have seen is obviously tremendous. So best of luck to Saudi Arabia, and I'm happy to be here. When it comes to Jayo's question, I'd say the aspect that we have quite commitment for of master in thermal power and propulsion. So a long story short, and I hope everyone can hear me, it's about sustainability and sustainable fuel in general. And in the core of it is hydrogen. And when I talk about hydrogen at Cranfield University, you can, strictly speaking, consider us as a one-stop shop, basically. So we consider every aspect of the project for hydrogen, starting from the feedstock to the fuel production. We also look at things related to supply chain, so fuel storage, transfer, transport, all of these kind of things. We also look at fuel systems all the way through until the end use. So whether you consider applications like gas turbines for stationary application or aerospace aviation, also things like internal combustion engines, reciprocating engines for power generation, all of these applications for hydrogen are there. So from the production to transport and supply chain to the end use, and also to the legislations. So we also have management school that, in addition to my aerospace school, there is another management school that looks also at the key aspects, of the legislations and all of these kind of things. This is how we envisage ourselves, focus on the sustainable fuel, and in the core of it, hydrogen.
Great, and you mentioned legislation at the end, and we started to hear already some of the perspectives from Brazil. But before going to Brazil, I'll come back to you, Rania, because the UK is usually mentioned as a leader when it comes to sustainability in aviation. So how are you approaching the energy transition, the transition to sustainable fuels in the UK?
Thank you. For us, sustainable fuels is part of a system, and it's an ecosystem of actions that we have taken. The journey started a long way back when we set all our targets to decarbonize the UK economy in legislation. It is illegal in the UK to basically not decarbonize. We have committed to decarbonizing the economy by 2050, have a net zero and 75% less sustainable, less 75% CO2 emissions by 2040. And then from then on, we decided that one of the things we can do is to focus in legislation, put everything in writing, commit ourselves, the leaders in the industry, and give that certainty that I talked about in the beginning, but then pass on a partnership level. So we set up something we call the Jet Zero Council, which is basically bringing together academics like Cranfield University and others. It brings together the industry, the aviation sector as a whole, airports and airlines. And through the work that we do, we continue to commit to new things, such as the ambition to have a zero emissions flight by 2050, i.e. an aeroplane flying in the sky with nothing coming out of its tailpipe that has CO2 emissions in it. And then we also started thinking about how do we deal with the short, the medium, and the longer term. And in the short term, it's all about efficiency. Better airplanes, better engines, all of the things that you can't do immediately. And progressing to the medium term and the longer term, medium term is new fuels, sustainable aviation fuels. And we started thinking, how do we show to the sector, how do we show to the industry that they should invest in this? So we put this in legislation. We created something called the Sustainable Aviation Fuel Mandate, which commits the sector to produce by 2030 production of sustainable aviation fuels of 10%. So in the mix on what goes into a plane will be 10% of sustainable aviation fuels. But we didn't stop there, Gio. We took a step further and said, yes on the legislation, yes on creating this kind of certainty for the sector, yes on the journey with the sector, and the last part was, can we then experiment? And we experimented. We have started investing in pilot projects. We have 13 projects in the UK that produce sustainable aviation fuels with different methods. We expect to have 5 producing SAF by 2035, and we also hope that there will be inward investment in those plants as they progress. So you can see it's a whole system. We treated it as a whole system and not just one action at a time.
So if I can summarize it, cross-sector collaboration.
Absolutely.
Investment and multiple levers, different
Correct.
technologies. So we've got sustainable aviation fuels, we've got hydrogen, we've got efficiency as well. And given that we have an efficiency expert, an engine expert, what's your perspective on efficiency? Obviously, newer engines are way more efficient than before. We consume less fuel when we fly, but to what extent we can push that efficiency down the line? Are we there already at the maximum, or can we keep going and make more efficient engines in the future?
Thanks, Joe. This is actually a very interesting point. So there are a couple of things we consider when it comes to engine efficiency. First and foremost is the efficiency of the engine itself. So how well the engine can burn fuel, how could you reduce your specific fuel consumption? This is on the engine side. However, if we talk about an aeroplane, so you have a bird, and this bird has such and such weight. So there are other things apart from changing the efficiency of the engine that we can do, such as, for example, weight reduction. So one of the projects we are just started a few months ago, less than a year, at the university is we have a revolutionary engine design that would replace, or not replace, rather we will incorporate some sort of a reciprocating linear engine within the turbofan engine, and this one will have a magnetic generator, electromagnetic generator within, to generate electricity in addition to the thrust. So if we start backward to the beginning of your question, usually fuel cells are more efficient than conventional turbofan engines. So for the standard turbofan engine, the big one you can see outside in the planes, efficiency is around 45%. Wow. Fuel cells can go to 55, but they can't go for long travel, so only for short haul. So if you focus on that, you go with the engine modification, improvement in the design, and this would pitch the efficiency up by about 15% due to this electromagnetic generator we refer to, for example. But not only that, the improved engine design will result in reduced engine core weight and reduced overall weight of the vehicle. So this could actually, rather than having only 15%, which is the direct improvement in the engine efficiency, and by 15%, basically, if I say, for example, the efficiency was 40% of that engine, if it improves by 15%, it will be 46%, basically.
So basically, large potential gains that we can get by scaling up.
Exactly. There will be a limit, though. At some point, you will exhaust every possible design to improve the engine. You will use the lightest material, like carbon fiber or whatever, but you will end up reaching that limit. Here, that's why some people are considering electric propulsion systems, for example, because obviously electric motors have efficiencies 90-95%. The problem with electric propulsion, you need batteries, and those are heavy.
Yeah,
so you have
we'll come to batteries and electricity in a moment, but we can keep increasing some of the efficiency gains.
Absolutely.
But we'll also need to scale up alternative fuel propulsions that will allow us to go beyond those 15-20%
Absolutely.
as well. And obviously SAF is one of those. And Luis, you started to talk about the role of Brazil, the mandate, like the ethanol production. Do you want to expand a little bit on that?
Yes, we have published already a Brazilian strategy, and we have built this strategy in three main pillars. The first one, carbon efficiency. We are agnostic in terms of technology and pathways. All SAFs, in short term or medium term, LCAF will be needed. This is an industry hard to abate, and we cannot pick winners at this point in Brazilian view. Therefore, Brazilian national strategy acknowledges diversity and has a comprehensive approach that allows for all pathways. Secondly, we also have a neutral approach in terms of feedstock. Brazil has a natural advantage for producing SAF and LCAF right now, but we also have technologies that increase agricultural productivity and allow us to extract GTA capture on carbon in the process that we have now. Finally, we understand that there will be an impact to the aviation sector in terms of costs. And in regions like myself in Latin America, this is a huge concern because we all the time are attempting to increase the aviation among our countries. So our national strategy looks for better and more efficient alternatives that not overburden the sector as at all. This is the Brazilian view for that.
Yeah, great to hear. And Rima, I'll come to you because Luis mentioned the cost of some of these fuels. But despite some of this cost, more and more airlines are starting to use sustainable aviation fuels. They started to blend that into their fuel mix. But also, demand is increasing. Supply is still sort of struggling, right? So how do you see that mismatch between supply and demand? And we talked about technology neutral, feedstock neutral approach. So what's your perspective on this topic?
Yes, true. So IATA, while we're working with the airlines on this net zero roadmap, we issued many roadmaps and many scenarios. In all of them, we keep the assumption that SAF will be the most contributor to this in this journey. So we keep this assumption, but we know that there are lots of skepticism about it because given that the demand is much more than the supply for now. So what we have now is accounts for 1% of what we have now. So definitely this is an issue. What we think is that the policies that will encourage looking at different feedstock is important. Diversification of feedstock is important. So being neutral in terms of technology and feedstock that are used for SAF, given that they are under the sustainability criteria, is very important. It will give flexibility to different countries and to different fuel producers to take their decisions, to see what are options that are best for their situation. This is very important to us. So that's what we rely on. Is looking at different pathways, because now the main pathway that is being used is HEFA, but we think and we believe in that there should be other pathways that should be explored in different areas, so different states can choose what are the pathways that are more feasible to their states and to their fuel producers.
Perfect. And Rania, coming to you.
I was going to add something because I think Rima is absolutely right. We do need new pathways for production, and some of the plans that we have started investing in the UK is looking exactly at those pathways. We realize that HEFA will not be here forever. We want the price to go down. So we started to building that little wedge of production that starts small, but is hopefully in the future be sustainable enough to create and build that gap as potentially we have not enough access to HEFA. The second thing I was going to say, and something we shouldn't forget, and we have many colleagues here from ICAO in Montreal, and indeed we heard the president this morning. This partnership, this solidarity, standing together as nations in what is a very big challenge, as we heard before, it is really key. And when we stood together to negotiate at Sustainable Aviation Fuel reduction 5% last November in Dubai, we did promise ourselves that one of the key elements should be to democratize production. Not only a few nations having the ability to do so, but having the ability to pick up SAF from many parts of the world. And I think that is something really important if you want to come to lower prices.
And we were just talking about the concept of affordability in my previous panel in the plenary. That's something incredibly important as new countries emerge and as the aviation sector grows further. But both of you, Irene and Rania, you mentioned, for example, that technology-neutral approach, multiple feedstocks will be needed. Aviation will want to get access to these, but other sectors will be competing for some of these feedstocks as well. And the same will apply to hydrogen as well. I'm looking at you. So yes, we can scale up electricity, we can scale up some of these hydrogen, but if you look at what is happening within the steel industry, just to name a sector, they will also want to get access to those molecules. So what's your perspective on how aviation fits within these wider sectoral decarbonization across the economy?
Yeah, this is a very interesting one because actually green hydrogen in particular is sort of like the elephant in the room. So in reality, at the moment, less than 1% of the hydrogen that is made globally are made in green ways, basically, or green hydrogen. So long story short, for the people who are kind of like get confused in colors, you have green hydrogen. If you produce the hydrogen by electrolysis of water using renewable electricity. So you have water, you do electrolysis, and you do electrolysis using renewable electricity. This is green hydrogen. 98% of the hydrogen production at the moment globally is made either gray hydrogen, which is done by a process called steam reforming of methane, or black or brown hydrogen, very common in China, which is from coal gasification. If you manage, and those are green and brown because they emit lots of carbon dioxide. If you manage to capture this carbon dioxide, this gray or brown hydrogen becomes blue hydrogen. Blue hydrogen is basically, as a whole cycle, is zero carbon dioxide emissions. It's neutral on the cycle. It's not green, but it's second best. It is expected that the blue hydrogen will patch this gap because we have 1% green hydrogen globally, all industries, including aviation, competing for that 1%. So we need more, and parallel to that, we need more blue hydrogen. Saudi Arabia actually is on the front end when it comes to blue and green hydrogen production. I think up north in Neom, there are stronger projects to be soon for production of green hydrogen and also blue hydrogen. Until this gap is bridged between the demand and the supply, aviation sector would still be in need for lots of infrastructure and investments in order to get this green hydrogen, as well as leaving some for other competing sectors.
So scaling out renewables is essential, even if traditionally they're not considered part of the aviation ecosystem, and obviously carbon capture to get potentially some blue hydrogen.
Absolutely, yes.
And Luis, you mentioned already, the mandate war, the wider approach. What else are you doing to support the low carbon fuel sector in Brazil and support some of this technology to develop further?
In Brazil, our approach is a little bit different than in other countries. We do not have economic capacity to provide direct incentives to airlines. Some states do. Or our national features do not allow for a volumetric mandate, as Europe, for instance. It will be very expensive and inefficient in Brazil to oblige all airports to supply SAF. Instead, we choose a mandate based on a carbon emissions reduction by use of SAF starting in 2027. As a consequence, we are incentivizing the decarbonization of the sector by use of the most efficient SAF, as I said already, the ones that provide for a better CO2 reduction at all. This proposal is currently under discussion in the Brazil Congress, as I said, and we hope to have this approved since this semester yet. In addition, we are working with other kinds of incentives, which will include the participation of the National Development Bank. For instance, it is important to highlight in Brazil we are relying on private investments to scale up SAF at production capacity in all the territory. As you know, we are a huge country. You need these investments to go to Brazil to help us to achieve this challenge.
So huge investment needed, and incentives can support, they can attract financial institutions, they can ensure that there is cross-industry collaboration to develop some of these new technologies as well. And Rima, what do you think the incentive ecosystem looks like. What do we need to really get up to scale when it comes to building these new sustainable aviation fuels technologies?
The most important thing that we always call for the government specifically, and I'm referring to what Nadia and my colleague Luis said as well, is the policies, the right policies to be set by the government. Now, after the airlines made this big commitment in 2021, it was a co-commitment as well by the governments next year under the umbrella of ICAO. So have all the industry together with the government having this one commitment will help us achieve this. What we are calling for is policies that give incentives rather being punitive. Something that the airlines, definitely, so the airlines are the users, so they need to have policies that help them really scale this, the production of SAF and have it viable in terms of commercial basis. So that's what we really call for the governments. This is very important for the airlines.
Rania, you heard the call. More incentives, more government support. And if I'm not wrong, you started actually to consider new measures to support sustainable aviation fuels. Can you tell us a bit more?
Yes, of course. So one of the first things that I said we did before is to try and invest and seed fund the plants that we have in the UK. But more importantly, we heard very loud and clear from investors around the world that we need to create some stability in terms of the price of those fuels and what will be the return, of course, for their investments. So currently we started to consult. We have a consultation out. Please feel free to respond, to say what exactly that mechanism should look like. Is it a buyer of last resort? Is it a price that you need to commit to for the suppliers to be able to make the return that they expected to, etc.? So that's the two things. But one of the things we haven't really been talking a lot about, and I think Rina and Ayata and others always remind us, is the customers. And we have a young generation of flyers, indeed here in the Kingdom and others, who pretty soon will have very strong demands and will want to see green products, not only delivered to their doors as cargo or the belly of the plane, but also as themselves traveling in planes that want to be greener, that they want to have a better outcome. And I think one of the things we started to do also in the UK is working with the Civil Aviation Authority, which is separate from us, from government, to see what are the things that we need to do to ensure that customers are well informed. What kind of literature, what kind of standards do we need in order to ensure that what they do, what they buy, what they offset is the right and it's understandable to everyone. And it's not just, smoke and mirrors. So customers, as well as stability in the price mechanism and investment intention is quite key.
So government, clear signals from government in terms of commitments, incentives, but also voluntary demand. And maybe bringing in a World Economic Forum perspective, we're working very much across many of the organizations which are willing to purchase some SAF. So corporates have large travel footprints, for example, that really want to scale some of this technology, and they can really be part of the energy transition as well. But maybe building a bit more on this topic about incentives, we're talking very much about sustainable aviation fuels. But Abdo, you touch on hydrogen, you touch on batteries, you touch on electricity. What is your opinion on what we need to scale some of these technologies up?
I'd like to say there is no silver bullet. So it's not like it will only be one solution and we all have to adopt it. But rather we should be adopting a combination of technologies according to, first and foremost, the application. So what will apply for short haul would be different from what will apply for long haul. Also, the availability of the fuel type we are using. So we have heard lots of talk about SAF, which is at the moment the most strong candidate, but for the short term. Hydrogen production so far, we said it's not enough, and it's still expensive. But 2050, hopefully, it will be even cheaper to produce because the cost of renewable electricity would be less. So as far as the technology, we can say the technology exists. There are very successful fuel prototypes around, either with hydrogen propulsion or electrification. But obviously, you're still in need for further research and development in order to refine these products, as well as the 2 points that were mentioned. the investments and the regulations. Investment-wise, you need both the government and the private sector. Aviation is a sector that you can't really isolate or look at just a successful business of billions. No, it's sort of like global connectivity. So it's in the interest of every country to have a strong aviation industry, and that's why governmental investments should also be there. This should also, as Rania said, include incentives, and also the legislations should also be permitting and allowing for things like that.
I'm building on your last point, which you mentioned it is in the interest of every country to really scale up some of these technologies. And countries can do a lot. They can introduce incentives, but they can also work together. So Luis, I'm coming to you. What does that collaboration look like between countries in ICAO, but also in particular in Latin America?
Yes, cooperation will be a key in order to achieve this challenge that we have talked. Brazil is already part of the ACT-SAF initiative in the ICAO, and we want to share our experience and our expertise with the other country. And we also learn from another experience. As Rania said, we have a lot to learn. In Latin America, we have a civil aviation community, a Latin American Civil Aviation Commission. And in Brazil, right now, is the focal point for the environment agenda. And as such, our priority is to foster this discussion in the region and find ways to build a robust and integrate regional market to SAF over there. Again, investments we need to flow to our region. Latin America has a huge potential to be one of the main supply of SAF in the world. And we have to be clear, there is no competition in this market. The aviation industry will need a lot of clean energy, such as, again, SAF and LCAF. To meet these decarbonization goals is necessary this collaboration. Therefore, we need to work together, all the countries, all the stakeholders, to promote collaboration between public and government parties. This is Brazil's opinion for Latino.
Absolutely, and that cross-government collaboration through ICAO is obviously essential when it comes to scaling up many of these technologies. But I like your sentence, which was there's no competition. No. Rima, airlines are competitors, right? So what does collaboration look like between all of these different airlines?
Yeah, it's a global commitment. So the airlines, each airline has to do some of what they do is on voluntary basis, which is also add to, they differentiate themselves in terms of addressing this environment challenge and the sustainability issue. And they are also doing other things based on regulations. But this is a global commitment and everyone is in it. But not only airlines. Airlines obviously are dependent on different stakeholders in order to achieve whether the short-term or the long-term goal. So we're dependent on engine manufacturers, on airports, on different efficiencies. So there are airlines really as a whole, we're dependent on other stakeholders. But what we're doing, for example, in IATA, we're looking at different airlines and we're having across, worldwide, almost 43 airlines who have already voluntarily commitments or agreements towards SAF by 23. So they're doing what they have to do. They're buying, airlines are buying every drop that is available in terms of SAF. And what we're calling for are the incentives, the investments, so they can really, do and achieve this big goal that we set for ourselves by 2050.
So let's move from that global commitment back to the UK. So you talked about, Rania, all of these different policies, all of the targets that you've got in place. What's next in the coming months? What should we expect?
So before what's next, I'll tell you what just happened. I do believe very strongly that sometimes we need to show and tell. It is very important that we can demonstrate that all of this that we're sitting around discussing is doable and is not fiction for the future. So in November, we ran the first 100% sustainable aviation fuel flight. I was on the plane. It was a magnificent flight. We're about more than 100 of us and flew on 100% sustainable aviation cooking oil from London to New York.
On both engines, right?
Yep, both engines. It was an incredible feat. Some of us were nervous, but obviously not me, because we know we had regulated the plane and everything was perfect. But the most important lesson that we learned is that flight had 64% reduction of CO2 emissions, right? We're talking 64%. A lot of people say you need new engines, you need to invest in new planes. Of course you do, you need new technology. But let's not forget this fuel is here, is now, and it can drop in your engine and it can go. The flight also reduced something we haven't talked about, which is one coming to my next thing. For us, for the future, is to look beyond SAF and to also look at non-CO2 emissions. So we started working on contrails and understanding with Cranfield and Cambridge and other partners what are contrails, what effects they have, and trying to get to see where we go next. But I think what the most important thing for me is there are a lot of things to do, and the time between now and 2050 is very short. So we have to act now. Act small, but act now.
And that is, I think, a really key takeaway to take forward on the back of these Future Aviation Forum as well. So you mentioned research, you mentioned contrails. So scientific researchers, the wider academia community will have a key role to play as we continue to drive that decarbonization agenda forward. Abdu, I'm coming to you. What's next for the research community? Like, what is really needed in terms of scientific support to continue this conversation?
So basically, and hear me out, we did not align our answers together. This is reality. It's not going to happen without collaboration. And this is what we are in the middle of at the moment. I started, most of the projects we usually used to have like 6-8 bodies on board. Now we talk about 60 and stuff like that. They don't have necessarily to be part of the consortium, but there are advisory boards. And this is what it takes in order to change what we refer to as global event. All of these kind of things is for the global sustainability to evade the global warming. It has to be collective efforts. So some of us have expertise on that, some of us has expertise on this, and it shouldn't be isolated islands, because we need to tie, as I said at the beginning, the feedstock to the production, to the supply, to the infrastructure, to the engine people who actually make the combustion, to the legislations people, all of these kind of things. So from scientific perspective, the trend now is obviously to collaborate as much as possible with different organizations from different backgrounds. There is lots to be done, but what we have seen, as Rania said, is quite actually surprising. It has been realized that soon. Some people were saying 100% SAF is not going to happen before 2030. No, it's happening. So lots of this will happen if we just keep doing what we are doing. And again, we did not agree on that answer. We need collaboration, we need investments, we need government's fund.
Okay, great. On collaboration, Luis, I'm coming to you because Brazil is hosting the G20 this year, right? And I understand sustainable fuels are going to be an important part of that conversation. What should we expect from Brazil this year on this particular topic?
Very good question for us, no? As a president G20 now, Brazil has included this clean energy and energy transition to has a top priority of this discussion over there. The world has made strong commitments to transition to decarbonization. It's not only aviation, ICAO, and maritime and the IMO. It is the international community in the Paris Agreement. So, in our view, we need to find solutions together again through the collaboration, as you said right now. In G20, we expect to find opportunities for fostering public and private investment. And again, Rania, about the collaboration on this, no? And we also expect that countries can agree on not on to create technical barriers, which in the end are the trade barriers for the bioenergy and for those clean energies. In order to scale up SAF and again LCAF and clean energies production, we will need to develop a global market, integrating all the supply chain. We need, for instance, to be able to agree on how to account for the carbon in a technical base that considers local realities as well in Brazil. In a nutshell, the G20 an opportunity for us to come to more pragmatic discussions and how, in fact, as René said, do something, put in place national policies in that direction, and how to foster the funds, again, needed for the global energy transition, especially in the regions like myself.
I'm glad you touched on accountability, because this is where I want to go next. And everyone seems to be doing a lot. We're investing in technology, we're developing policy, airlines are buying some of the fuel, more and more airlines are committing to these. How do we track all of this progress? And Riemann, coming to you.
Yeah. Of course, this commitment, we're accountable for this commitment. So there have to be specific actions that needs to be taken. I'll take your word, pragmatic. There should be practical steps, practical action items. We should start now, so we achieve something in the future, as Nadia said. Cooperation as well. So this is why, in order to achieve this, what we were looking at in IATA is, it's our assessment. We put some roadmaps, which is our assessment on how we can get to this net zero, to achieve this net zero, by looking at what can be done across different stakeholders. So each of the stakeholders can look at the roadmap, they can see set of actions and sequence of actions. What are the technologies that are available now? What are the technologies that can be used now, that can be mature in the future? And to collaboration, we worked on these roadmaps with different stakeholders. We had almost 130 experts from different 100 different stakeholders, including airports, including infrastructure providers, OEMs, engine manufacturers, airlines. So we all sit together and see what are the best, set of actions that we can have. Of course, we will make sure that these roadmaps are up to date, because obviously there are always development in the technology. So to make sure that we follow the latest that is available. And also on the tracking side, there are good side and negative and positive side about it. So under different regulations and on voluntary basis as well, airlines now, they need to track. So we can track where we are towards this commitment. So it's good, because this is a way where airlines can know where are the risks, where are the risks, and where are the opportunities. But tracking also, sometimes it adds more burden or more extra, work, because it comes under regulations as well in some cases. So what we're doing as well is trying to standardize, to come up with a tracking system which can be used by all airlines, so we all have standards way of tracking this CO2 emissions. And I just wanted to confirm that we're talking about SAF because we're talking about long-term commitment. But definitely there are lots of steps that are being taken on the short term. So first of all, before thinking of changing the fuel, definitely what we started with is trying to reduce the fuel burn itself. Then we change the fuel, and then we capture what is in the carbon that is out. So these are all together working with all the industry stakeholder, all the supply chain and others is very important, and this is what we're trying to look at, because at the end of the day, all what we're doing all together, as you said, passengers and everything, is actually to reduce emissions. That's the ultimate goal. Reduce emissions, but also keep our ability to facilitate the industry, to facilitate the travel, to facilitate the growth, and the contribution of our industry to economy. That's what we want at the end of the day, every one of us.
Great. I've got one final question for each of you. But before we do that, can I just check if there are any super quick questions from the audience? Anyone who wants to ask something to the panelists? Please, we've got a microphone there, I think. If you can introduce yourself as well, that would be great.
I'm Michel Arcelinian from Brazil. I'm permanent representative at ICAO. A very interesting discussion. We talk about collaboration, about acting now. I would just like to ask the panelists about the role played by operational action in the promotion of decarbonization, because these are measures that are within our reach, are easy. They are not technological does not require technological advances. So just to optimize routes, to have a quicker movement of airplanes in airports, have a better air traffic management. So we should collaborate on this, and I would like to know what do you think the role ICAO can play in promoting this very simple measure, but as Hania said, simple but effective, and can play up to 10% in the reduction of carbon emissions. Thank you.
And if you could pass on the mic next to you.
Thank you. I'm Eileen Poh, the representative of Singapore in the Council of ICAO as well. I just thought of the one item which is quite important, that's transparency. So I see myself as a passenger, but also as an investor in the decarbonization effort. And therefore, if we can have clarity with regards to, IATA has all these programs about passengers contributing a certain amount to decarbonize their flights. But there is no literature or perspective as to where are these money going to. And if we can collect this money and treat it as an investment for self-production, but you need to give prospectus as to where is this money being invested? Does it follow all the criteria that ICAO put in? Because then this becomes a very valuable voluntary investment into something that you can do now. And also to Rania as the regulator, and also Brazil, as a regulator, you may have to look into where all these investments are going into, even if it's voluntary, to give us the certainty and transparency that indeed it is going to the right place.
And maybe I'll add in a little bit of an addition, which is not transparency just on the investment, but also on the sustainability side of things. We're trying to really decarbonize. We're looking at feedstocks. We're looking at products. It's essential that those meet rigorous standards to be able to actually convince passengers that this is the way forward. Does anyone want to take any of the points raised very briefly? Rania?
Yeah, I'll take the first one and the second very quickly. So Michelle is right. Operations are really important. We're trying to, along with very many other countries across the globe, try to redesign our airspaces. Not an easy thing to do, but it does take quite a lot, has a lot of good effects. Again, on the flight that we went across the Atlantic, it was not just the fact that we had 100% fuel, which was SAF, but we also had a better route, if you like, which reduced emissions and a further 35%, or efficiency, increased efficiency by 34%, which is quite significant. On Ireland's point, I think I mentioned this before, what we're asking, I'm not the regulator, I'm the government, but we're asking the regulator to do exactly this, to work to see what can we learn to help consumers have better clarity where the money goes, what is happening, and we'll be more than happy to work together with others, and indeed primarily through ICAO to see whether we can have common standards. But one last thing, and a plug for me, is CORSIA has been absent to our conversation. 127 countries are in CORSIA next year. We want the rest. I think it's one of the biggest achievements of ICAO, and if I were to leave it at that, I think CORSIA will be key for that joint commitment.
Absolutely. Rima, I'm coming to you, and I'm conscious we're busy somewhere else, so I'll ask you to be very brief.
Yeah, very, very quickly, actually aligned with Nadia as well. So the commitment by the airlines, definitely still, we have all the pillars working on it. So we're talking about SAF, this is the long-term commitment, but the short commitment has all the pillars inside it, all the measures, the operational, the infrastructure, all types of these efficiencies that we can have it and we can build it into the system. So these are all considered, and definitely CORSIA is one other pillar that will close the gap, and we're under ICAO, and it's something that we want to to comply with, and we call other states also to be voluntary with. The money and the investments, that's one of the things that IATA always call for, because what we want is that whether it is like a tax environment, which we have a position on, but where does this investment go for, or this money go for? Does it go back to the same goal where we want to reduce emissions? That's that's one top criteria that we look through it and we call for it, that any money goes back to the same goal. Yeah.
Louise, any final remarks or anything to add from your side? You've got 30 seconds.
I absolutely agree with you, Michel. We are talking about the future is something from 20 years ago, but we can do more right now. When I said, November we did it, and could do that much better. If you sit with your neighbor, for instance, you can reroute some airways and you can save 3-4% easily. It's a question to us as a regulator and service providers to do more on this. I absolutely agree on you.
So the future is now. The future is now.
Through the collaboration, goodwill, collaboration, all the stakeholders at the same table, aiming the same result for the aviation.
Abdu, anything to add from your side? You've got 20 seconds.
As I said, as the panel said as well, collaboration, investments, regulations, and it's a collective effort. There is no silver bullet. Every option should be investigated and used in the applicable scenario.
Great. So collaboration is key. That's what we do at the World Economic Forum, and that's what we very much look forward to continuing to do with you as we continue the decarbonization journey. So a big round of applause for our panelists, and look forward to continuing the discussion with you.